The story begins with a young man, Woon, sitting alone at a table, absorbed in reading a book. He is the seventh son of the Heavenly Demon Divine Cult leader. His quiet moment is interrupted when his brother-in-law unexpectedly enters his home. Woon looks up and asks, "Brother-in-law, what brings you here?" Lee Sungwon, standing at the door, responds, "I have a gift from the cult leader." Woon, surprised, exclaims, "The cult leader is sending me a gift?" Lee nods, confirming it. Curiosity piqued, Woon inquires, "What kind of gift?" Lee reaches into his cloak, pulls out a bottle, and places it in front of Woon on the table. "A fine booze brewed by a master from Fuzhou," he explains. Woon eyes the bottle suspiciously and remarks, "It's not booze, it's poison." His mind races as he reflects. "It's been 7 years since I moved to this remote village. I've made it clear I have no desire to rise to power, yet they won't leave me alone." Lee smirks and says, "One sip, and you'll die without pain." Woon, calmly closing his book, asks, "How many men did you bring?" 32 men of the Haisha Corps. "The truth is, I should be enough, but what ifs exist in this world?" Lee replies. Woon places the book down and says, "You've made a grave mistake, brother-in-law." Lee, puzzled, thinks a mistake? But before Lee can react, a surge of bloodlust emanates from Woon, startling him. The table splits in half, and the book is sliced cleanly. For a moment, Lee stands speechless before muttering, "You've been hiding your claws all this time." A fierce battle ensues between Lee and Woon, their blades clashing in a deadly dance, ki radiating around them. After a while, a member of the Haisha Corps turns to another and says, "The fight's been going on for some time." The second responds, "It's taking the commander longer than expected. Despite what people say about him, he's still the former cult leader's son. He's putting up a fight. Could there be something he's hiding?" The first man sighs and says, "If that's not the case, I'm disappointed." Suddenly, the vice captain of the Haisha Corps shouts, "Stop chatting and be on guard. If he escapes, none of you will see another sunrise." The Haisha Corps members immediately bow and reply, "Yes, sir." The vice captain thinks to himself, has he really been hiding his skills? But even if that's true, it won't matter. Only someone of the highest level could withstand a sword strike from a captain. There's no way he could be that strong. The captain's renowned swordsmanship is legendary. He's taking his time for the young sir's pride, I suppose. His thoughts are interrupted by the smell of blood. The fight must be over, he thinks. Moments later, a figure emerges from the house surrounded by the Haisha Corps. "The captain is coming out!" someone shouts. As the figure steps into the light, the vice captain shouts, "Wait! That's not the captain! Draw your swords!" The Haisha Corps members murmur in surprise. Was the seventh son of the cult leader this strong? Woon, standing tall, calmly declares, "Haisha Corps, this is your chance to run. Your time starts now." When no one moves, Woon sighs and says, "Not a single one of you ran, not bad for one of the demon cult's representative forces," before enveloping his sword with ki. "Now, don't blame me for what happens next." With swift precision, Woon begins to eliminate his enemies. The vice captain watches stunned. He's strong. That crimson light on his sword, its sword ki, was hiding in this remote village just a cover for his swordsmanship training? The vice captain realizes the situation is dire. Retreating would mean death. He curses silently before charging at Woon. There's no going back now. As he gets closer, the air is filled with floating swords. The vice captain is taken aback. Sword ki isn't the only problem. Is this why the cult leader wanted him dead? The vice captain tries to dodge one of the phantom swords, but it's a feint. Woon appears behind him in an instant, his sword moving with lightning speed, severing the vice captain's head in a single stroke. In his final moments, the vice captain thinks his defeat of the captain wasn't a fluke. The mission has failed. Woon, exhausted from the battle, presses a hand to his stomach, feeling the wound. "My ki is nearly spent, and this wound worries me. But it's not fatal." He thinks, "I need to focus on escaping." Just then, a piercing attack strikes him from behind, creating a hole in his stomach. The attacker is none other than Myeong-gak, the current cult leader and Woon's brother. "I knew this would happen," Myeong-gak says coldly. "Phantom blades are far beyond your skill. It's a good thing I tagged along." Woon turns to face Myeong-gak, weak but defiant. Myeong-gak adds, "This is Heavenly Demon God Arts, Endpoint 13, Heavenly Demon Ray. This is only the second time I've used it." Woon's thoughts swirl. Is he telling me to be proud that it was used on me? Damn it, I didn't expect Myeonggak to be here. I have no chance of surviving now. He asks. Brother, I want to ask you one last question. Myeonggak raises an eyebrow. Go ahead. I'll gladly hear my little brother's last words. Woon, struggling to remain conscious, says, I never wanted to take father's seat, but why do you go to such lengths? Myeonggak's eyes narrow. Little brother, didn't I tell you before? The winner takes everything. The one who becomes the cult leader gains everything, and those who lose, lose everything. That's the law of the Heavenly Demon Dod Cult. Woon responds. Just because of that? Myeonggak sneers. Are you questioning the cult's law and order? I don't care about it. Woon replies defiantly, before collapsing to his knees from the pain. Myeonggak turns to leave, but before he does, he asks, Anything else you'd like to say? Woon, coughing up blood, thinks, I've reached my limit. I can't even stand anymore. Myeonggak continues walking away, saying, I'll bury you where the sun will shine on your grave nicely. Woon summons his remaining strength and shouts, Myeonggak! Myeonggak turns around, and for a moment their eyes meet. Woon, with a small smile, collapses, finally succumbing to his wounds. As he loses consciousness, he curses, Is this the end? I couldn't even respond to his words. Then, a voice calls to him. Do you regret it? Woon's mind is clouded, but he replies, I'd be lying if I said I didn't. I should have never run away that day. The voice responds, Do you wish to fight again? If it's possible. Woon says with a faint smile. I'll fight with all my might. The voice says, That's good. Woon, as he lies dying, thinks it hurts. I can't breathe. Have I fallen into the water hell that the Heavenly Demon Dod Cult talks about? If so, I can't call it justice. If I've sinned, it's for fighting to survive. Myeonggak, and those brothers who let this family feud rage on, they're the ones who should go to hell. Not me. As silence settled like mist in the air, a clear, urgent voice suddenly cut through it. Young sir, can you hear me? Breathe. That's it, breathe. Woon blinked, his senses slowly returning. He looked around, confusion knitting his brow. This place, if I'm not mistaken, this is Demyeong Palace, he thought. The residence of the cult leader, and the other key figures of the Heavenly Demon Cult. Before he could gather his thoughts, another voice, rough, familiar, and deeply annoying, called out behind him. You idiot! How's that for a wake-up call? Woon turned sharply. His eyes narrowed as he took in the chubby figure standing with a smug grin. That face, don't tell me. Myeonggak? My sixth brother? His expression twisted with disbelief. This must be some nightmare. There's no way. No way I've been thrown into the same hell as that glutton again. How did I end up stuck with him? A servant at his side quickly whispered. Young sir, please, don't speak that way. Flushed with embarrassment and fury, Myeonggak barked. What the hell did you just say, you damn mongrel? Woon spun around, rage flaring in his eyes. Say that again, you pig! In the blink of an eye, the two lunged at each other, grabbing each other by the collar. You think I won't? You dirty mongrel bastard! Myeonggak shouted, his face red. Servants rushed in, attempting to pull them apart, but before they could intervene, Myeonggak shoved Woon hard. With a splash, Woon crashed into a shallow pond behind him. He emerged dripping wet, gasping, and staring down into the rippling surface of the water. His eyes widened in shock. That face. The reflection staring back was not the man he had become. It was his face at 11 years old. Wait a second, this face. This is from when I was 11. Before he could fully comprehend it, Myeonggak sneered, lifting his leg to kick. Go drown, you damn bastard! Woon dodged the kick with a quick sidestep. You slippery brat! Myeonggak snarled and charged. But before the scuffle could escalate, a figure stepped between them with swift precision, halting both boys. Woon's eyes widened in surprise. That face, no way. Jong-moon? The name slipped out before he could stop himself. He stood frozen. Jong-moon, he shouldn't be here. He was once a member of the Black Tortoise Corps, eventually rising to become its captain. A self-made warrior who reached the peak of martial arts. The Jong-moon I knew was a veteran in his 50s, but the one standing here now is in his 20s. Come to think of it, Myeonggak looks younger too. That means... Jong-moon glanced at him with a puzzled look. How does the seventh sir know my name? We've never met. Still, he stepped forward, fist to palm, and bowed. I am Myeong-woon, 17th Captain of the Black Tortoise Corps. I greet the 7th young master. A flustered voice immediately cut in. Hey! Don't you know your place? I outrank him! Myeong-tak stomped forward, pointing at Jong-moon with indignation. Without hesitation, Jong-moon turned, bowed, and said respectfully, My apologies, 6th young master. Please forgive my tardy greeting. Myeong-tak scoffed. If you want to serve in Demyeong Palace, you'd better learn who's who. Jong-moon bowed again. I offer my sincerest apologies to both young masters. As you are well aware, a small quarrel in this palace could spiral into a bloodbath. I humbly ask both of you to exercise caution. Woon raised his hand. Understood. I was just playing with my little brother. Myeong-tak grinned and turned to leave. I'm off. As he walked away, Woon's eyes returned to the pond. I remember this clearly. 27 years ago, my 6th brother pushed me into a pond. I couldn't swim back then. I nearly drowned and was bedridden for over 10 days with a fever. Then this really is the past. I've come back. Normally, I think I'm dreaming. But a dead man can't dream. That voice in the abyss, whoever it was, they gave me another chance. I don't know who you are, but this time, I'll fight with everything I've got. I'll keep my promise. I'll defeat Myeonggak. And the first step is securing Jong-moon. Meanwhile, Jong-moon stood silently, watching the two boys. A fight between young masters. What a tiresome affair, he thought. Woon stepped forward and placed a hand on his arm. You're Jong-moon, right? Jong-moon turned. That is correct, young sir. I was raised to repay those who helped me, Woon said solemnly. Jong-moon looked uneasy. There's no need for that, sir. I only did what was right. He thinks this is a trivial act, unworthy of reward? Woon thought, narrowing his eyes. Nonsense, he said firmly. I'll see that you're rewarded. Jong-moon began sweating. No, this is bad. If I'm seen receiving a reward from the 7th young master, others might think I've taken sides. In Demyeong Palace, that could be fatal. He quickly dropped to one knee. Young sir, please, there's no need for any reward. Woon smirked inwardly. That's the Jong-moon I remember. He's always one step ahead. He raised a brow. Captain Jong, are you saying I should go against what father taught me? Jong-moon froze. The Heavenly Demon, the cult's leader, was the most feared man in the world. If I say yes, I'm done for. He bowed deeply. How could I dare? Please forgive this mistake. Woon stepped forward and gently placed a hand on his shoulder. There's no need for forgiveness. I'm merely doing what my father taught me. And marking the man who'll become one of the greatest swordsmen the demon cult has ever known. That's something I won't hesitate to do, he thought. Jong-moon exhaled and spoke solemnly. Hi Jong-moon, we'll follow your wishes, young sir. A little while later, as Woon returned to his quarters, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed through the stone corridor. One of the servants, dressed in the formal black and blue uniform of the West Quarters, caught sight of Woon's dripping figure and immediately rushed over, alarm flashing in his eyes. Young sir! What happened? He asked nervously, eyes darting to the soaked garments clinging to Woon's frame. It's nothing, Woon replied with a calm shrug. Just a bit of water. But as he observed the man, a flicker of recognition passed through his mind. Kang Han, head manager of the West Quarters. If I remember correctly, he always resented his appointment here. He wanted to serve in the North Quarters, under my 5th brother. His family background is decent enough, and his ambition isn't lacking either. Han, keeping a stiff posture, quickly turned to one of the young maidservants who had accompanied Woon back. You there, bring something to dry the young sir off, he ordered. He didn't get the position he wanted, so they placed him here instead. Maybe that's why he eventually became bitter and apathetic, Woon thinks. As the maid rushed off, Han turned his attention to the remaining girl. His voice grew cold and inquisitive. What exactly happened out there? The girl fidgeted under his intense gaze, her voice trembling. I'm sorry, head manager. It was a conflict between the 6th young master and the 7th. I couldn't intervene. Just as Han opened his mouth to rebuke her, Woon cut him off sharply. That's enough. If you've got time to scold maids, use it to prepare my bath. Surprised, Han blinked. Bathwater, sir? Are you going to take responsibility if I catch a cold? Woon snapped, brushing past him. No, sir. I'll see to it right away. Han bowed and scurried off. 27 years ago, Woon thought, I caught a terrible cold just from falling into that same pond. I've protected my body now using a breathing technique, so I should be fine, but better not to risk it. As he walked on, he caught Han glancing back at him, a puzzled look crossing the manager's face. That tone, the way he speaks now, it's different from before, Han thought. Woon's mind drifted back to memories from his previous life. Calm Han. I remember how your diligence gradually faded, replaced by arrogance and laziness when you realized you wouldn't rise through the ranks. You ignored me when I needed you most. Not this time. I won't show weakness before you again. Just then, a maid appeared and bowed. The bathwater is ready, young sir. Without delay, Woon turned and made his way toward the bath chamber. Ensure no one enters while I'm bathing. Yes, young sir, she answered, bowing once more. From behind, Han furrowed his brows. Was his voice always this loud? He wondered. Noticing the silence, Woon paused and turned, his expression stern. Head manager Kong Han. I gave you an order. Where's your answer? Startled, Han snapped out of his daze. Me? I'll say it again, Woon said firmly. Make sure no one enters. Han lowered his head in a respectful bow. Understood, young sir. The seventh young master, Myeong-woon, resided in the sector closest to the western gate, hence the name, the West Quarters. Though he ranked lowest among his brothers, he was still a blood-born son of the cult leader, and that alone gave him the potential to someday ascend to the throne of the Heavenly Demon Cult. Here, his servants, maids, and even Kang Han, the head manager, had no choice but to cater to him. Inside the steaming bath chamber, Woon sank slowly into the hot water. A long exhale escaped his lips. This really does feel good, he murmured. I'm turning into an old man, saying things like this. He chuckled to himself softly. Before I died, I was nearing 40. Too young to be old, too old to be called young. Let's just call it, experienced. His gaze shifted down to his body, thin and bony beneath the water. This is bad. No wonder my master sighed when he first saw me. I was skin and bones. If memory serves me right, I met him 3 years from now, when I turned 15. That's when father assigned Master Wang Jun, the Phantom Sword Arts Master, to train me. Until then, I'll have to train on my own. He narrowed his eyes. I've already mastered everything there is to the Phantom Sword Arts. The issue is the Phantom Blades themselves. While I can't compare to my master, I've already resolved many of the art's hidden flaws. Still, I was no match for Myeonggak. He wielded the Heavenly Demon God Arts, the greatest martial art passed down from the first cult leader, Cheon Ma, the Divine. That art, it's said that whoever perfects it can transcend human limits and become absolute. The rumors were true. Among all the martial arts I know, nothing compares to it. Not even the Great Key Transformation, developed by Myeong-jin, the third leader, or the Infinite Great Mountain Divine Arts, Shaolin Zijing, Mount Hwa's Violet Cloud Divine Technique, Wudong's Tai Chi Sword Arts. None of them can stand against the Heavenly Demon God Arts. In fact, there's only one thing you can do when faced with it: deflect. He fell silent. The steam from the bath swirled around him like drifting clouds. Then, with a sudden spark of clarity, his eyes opened wide. I'm an idiot, he muttered aloud. I've been wasting my time looking for a martial art that surpasses it. But I don't need to do that. A fierce resolve took hold in his chest. I just need to become the cult leader. The scene shifted to a back alley of the West Quarters, where Kang Han stood, arms folded, his sharp eyes fixed on the trembling maid before him. So what you're saying is, the young sir fell into the pond and got into a fight with the sixth young master? He asked, his voice low, almost disbelieving. The maid bowed her head deeply. Yes, head manager. The fight was escalating, but before anything serious happened, someone from the Black Tortoise Corps intervened. Han's brow furrowed. Someone from the Black Tortoise Corps? Yes, sir. It was the 17th captain, Jong-moon. A flicker of surprise passed through Han's eyes. Jong-moon. The 17th captain himself? Someone of his rank intervening in a scuffle between two young masters? He narrowed his gaze, mind racing. Is the Black Tortoise Corps suddenly looking out for the 7th young master? That shouldn't be possible. The Corps has always had close ties to the 4th, sir, unless something's changed. His eyes darted back to the maid. Anything else to report? She shook her head. No, sir. That is all. That's strange, Han thought, suspicion growing. There has to be more to this. That child never caused ripples in the past. But now, the Black Tortoise Corps suddenly intervenes on his behalf? Just then, another maid hurried over. She bowed quickly. Head manager. The 7th young master is requesting your presence. Now? Han asked with a raised brow, tone clipped. Yes, sir. He said he wants to see you immediately. A pause. Did he say that himself? Yes, head manager. He was very firm. Han frowned, visibly unsettled. Why now? What is this sudden urgency? But as he looked toward the corridor leading to the young master's chambers, he sighed internally. If he gives an order with that tone, I can't ignore it. Very well. I'll go now. A short while later, after composing himself, Han arrived at Woon's room. He rapped lightly on the door before stepping inside. Young sir, he greeted with restrained courtesy. Woon turned from the window, robes draped elegantly over his shoulders. You're here. Suppressing the irritation rising in his chest, Han replied. Yes. I heard you called for me. He doesn't like being summoned, Woon thought, catching the subtle strain in his voice. It's nothing serious, Woon said calmly. I'd simply like to sell the books in my study. Han blinked, caught off guard. A bookworm asking to sell his own library? He thought. What kind of nonsense is this? May I ask the reason? He said cautiously. I need money, Woon replied plainly. I plan to use it. If you're short on pocket money, I can have some arranged for you, young sir. I need 1,000 liang. Han's composure cracked. His eyes widened as he stared at Woon, struggling to keep his voice steady. Young sir, 1,000 liang? Surely you're joking. Woon leaned back, expression unchanging. I'm starting a business. Isn't 1,000 liang a small price for that? There was a pause, then a disbelieving laugh escaped Han. A business? He said with incredulous amusement. You're saying you want to start a business? Woon remained silent, simply meeting his gaze. Without a maternal family to support you, without a martial arts teacher, without influence, just the lowest rank young master of the cult, you really think you can begin something like that? He's not just angry at me, Woon thought. He's speaking to himself, voicing his own frustrations. This place, the West Quarters, it's too narrow a cage for a man like him. If he was once appointed general, he must have had the skills. Maybe his retirement wasn't due to failure, but due to circumstance. Should I bring that talent back to life? General Kong, Woon said suddenly. If I had a teacher to guide me and a family willing to back me, would it be possible then? Is there really such a family? Han asked cautiously. There is. Han's eyes narrowed. May I ask which family? You may not, Woon replied, tone firm. I don't trust you enough yet. Han was momentarily speechless. He's never been one to bluff or lie. If someone like him says there's a family, there must be. Any more questions? Woon asked. I have a mountain of them, Han muttered. But you don't seem like you'll answer any of them properly. Very well. I'll respect your decision. Woon stood, the shift in his presence now undeniable. Then, General Kong, prepare a military uniform for me. Use the highest quality silk available, and base the design on the attire of the Black Tortoise Corps. You're referring to Captain Jong-moon's uniform, aren't you? Han asked slowly. Woon nodded once. Then rest assured, Han said, straightening his posture. I will ensure it fits you perfectly. Look at this transformation, Woon mused. All it took was a little ambition, and he's changed already. How soon can it be prepared? Woon asked. Give me a date, Han said, confidence returning to his voice. Tomorrow. Han hesitated only a moment before answering. I'll pull an all-nighter if I must. Woon smiled faintly. That won't be necessary. You're not the one sewing it. Don't overwork the attendants. Just have it ready in 3 days. That simple act of consideration startled Han more than anything else. This isn't just a change in tone. It's a change in bearing. He gives orders as if it were second nature. Has he been hiding this sharpness all along? Someone is behind him. There's no other explanation. Not the cult leader, nor the official heir. But someone. And yet, the 7th young master has no maternal family. Who is it, backing him now? 3 days later, Kang Han stepped briskly into the courtyard of the West Quarters, holding a folded military uniform draped carefully across his arms. The fabric shimmered slightly under the daylight. Clearly, it was of the finest quality. This is the military uniform you requested, he announced as he approached Woon. It was crafted to match the official specifications of the Black Tortoise Corps, down to the smallest detail. Woon took the uniform and examined it with a keen eye. The material was soft yet durable, and the stitching precise. He held it up against his body briefly. He even got the sizing exactly right, Woon thought, quietly impressed. Does that mean talent truly manifests differently depending on who wields it? Without warning, he tossed the uniform back toward Han. Get ready. I'm going to the Black Tortoise Corps right now. Han blinked. You're going yourself? Woon shot him a sidelong glance. Why? Is that strange? Han quickly followed after him, walking half a step behind. To be frank, yes. It feels excessive. And why is that? Woon asked, tone light but probing. Han cleared his throat. Captain Myeong-woon is the leader of the 17th Division, but his rank is quite low within the Corps. The real power lies with the leaders of the 10 Wings, the single-digit captains who form the core of the Black Tortoise Corps' strength. Compared to them, Myeong-woon isn't as distinguished. I'm not sure it warrants your personal attention. Woon stopped briefly, turning his head just enough for his voice to carry. You're right. It isn't enough to reward him myself. Then, with a calm smile and a sharp glint in his eyes, he added, That's exactly why I'm going. Han's expression tensed. Don't tell me. Are you trying to provoke the fourth Sir's envy? Envy? From fourth brother? Woon replied, tilting his head slightly. What makes you think that? Han sighed. The fourth Sir is a jealous man. He has a tendency to mistrust those around him, especially if someone appears to gain favor. If one of the Black Tortoise Corps captains aligns with you, he'll take notice. And likely, take offense. You saw right through it, Woon said with a faint smirk. Myeong-woon won't be of much use to him, so he'll discard him. When he does, all we need to do is pick him up. Han stopped walking for a second, staring at the young boy in disbelief. This is a 12-year-old's plan? This strategy? His voice slipped out. You're a truly frightening person. Did you predict all of this from the start? Woon glanced at him curiously. All the way? Is there something I missed? Then he said, General Kong, I'd like to compare thoughts. Tell me what you've concluded. Han nodded. Before the uniform was finished, I did a little digging. Myeong-woon is known to be a sincere man. While his martial prowess isn't on the level of a true master, his background is unique. Go on. His father is a minor martial artist, skilled, but without fame or renown. But his mother was different. She was born into one of the 8 great families of the Great Mountain, the Suk clan of Guizhou. The Suk clan, so his maternal family is the Guizhou Suk clan, Woon thought. Then, his appointment under the 4 protection laws wasn't based solely on his merit. If we win over Myeong-woon, Han continued, we gain a potential link to the Guizhou Suk clan. And if we gain their influence, it'll greatly benefit the business you're planning. Woon nodded. But to gain their support, I'll have to prove myself worthy first. In that case, he smiled. Let's go earn our first badge of recognition. A little while later, inside one of the maidservants' quarters, a young woman handed Woon a small, neatly packed box. Without opening it, Woon turned and passed it directly to Han. Carry this with the uniform. What is it? Han asked, eyeing the box curiously. You'll find out soon enough. Let's go. Soon after, the pair arrived at the main gates of the Black Tortoise Corps' superintendents. 2 guards in heavy uniforms stood sentinel at the entrance. Han stepped forward without hesitation, voice loud and firm. The 7th Sir of the West Quarters has come to pay a visit to the Black Tortoise Corps. The guards stiffened. One immediately stepped forward to greet Woon with a bow, while the other turned on his heel and dashed inside to alert his superiors. Inside the complex, in a large chamber filled with scrolls, maps, and martial records, a guard approached the Vice Corps leader and bowed. The 7th young master is here, sir. He's at the main gate with attendants. The Vice Corps leader paused, brows furrowing. The 7th, sir? Yes, sir. He leaned back in his chair, a pensive look overtaking his face. The 7th? He's never shown interest in military matters before. What's going on now? It seems something unexpected is unfolding, he muttered. The subordinate asked. Should we escort him in? The vice leader folded his arms. There's no need to rush. Let's not get involved unless we have to. Send for Captain Gwon Take. Have him greet the seventh sir. Not long after, Gwon-taek arrived at the front gate of the Black Tortoise Corps. As he caught sight of the boy standing calmly in front of the entrance, flanked by attendants, his eyes narrowed slightly. So the seventh sir really did come here in person, and brought his attendants too, he thought. Whatever the reason, I just hope it's not something that ends in bloodshed. Putting those concerns aside, Gwon-taek respectfully stepped forward, forming a martial salute with a clenched fist and open palm. I am the first team leader of the Black Tortoise Corps, Gwon-taek. What brings the young sir to our gates today? Woon stepped forward with a measured, courteous tone. I came because I recently received help from a warrior of the Black Tortoise Squad. I'm here to reward him. Gwon-taek blinked, then let out a subtle sigh of relief. So it wasn't a grudge or a complaint. That's good. I can handle this sort of formality a dozen times over. Still, his wariness remained. Though, in the Heavenly Demon Cult, people often say one thing and mean another. Words twist like serpents, even when the tone is peaceful. But, he glanced at the boy. The seventh sir doesn't seem like that kind of person. The thought brought him back to something Vice Leader Il-hoon had said with a laugh. You'll figure out where to stand soon enough. Thanks to you, I get to sit back and relax. Compared to Il-hoon, the seventh sir is far more polite, Gwon-taek mused. Even if he only shows his gratitude with words. He turned back to Woon. May I ask, young sir, who is the warrior you wish to reward? The 17th team leader, Jong-moon. Hearing that, Gwon-taek furrowed his brows slightly. If I may, could I ask what kind of assistance team leader Jong provided? A short while later, after listening to Woon's explanation in detail, Gwon-taek gave a small nod. In other words, he distinguished himself in a time of need. That's right, Woon confirmed. Nearby, Han was listening and thought, isn't that a little too generous? The version Woon just gave felt far more flattering than the chaotic incident that had actually occurred. Woon continued, reaching inside his sleeve and retrieving a neatly wrapped bundle. And so, I have come to offer this reward. I ask that you deliver it to Team Leader Jong. Gwon-taek accepted the bundle, wrapped tightly in cloth. If it's silver ingots or something similar, it shouldn't be an issue, he reasoned. Would young sir not prefer to deliver it to him personally? Han flinched slightly. That's right, didn't he insist on rewarding Jong-moon personally? Woon shook his head. It's fine. I'd rather not cause him any trouble. As long as my intention is conveyed, that is enough. I understand, Gwon-taek said, bowing slightly. Then I shall see that it reaches Team Leader Jong. As Woon turned to leave, he spoke with a calm formality. Please see to it, Team Leader Gwon. Please take care, young sir. Once Woon and his attendants departed, Gwon-taek made his way toward the main hall, where Vice Leader Il-hoon was waiting. Gently, he set the wrapped bundle down on the table and peeled the cloth away, revealing a military uniform and a lacquered wooden box. Il-hoon narrowed his eyes. Open the box too. Gwon-taek hesitated. Should we really open it? The significance of this visit depends entirely on what's inside that box. Il-hoon said, expression unreadable. This isn't something we can leave to chance. Is there something hidden in this reward? Gwon-taek wondered as he undid the latch. As the lid opened, both men froze at the sight. Il-hoon's voice was low and troubled. What, a troublesome gift! Meanwhile, Woon and Han were already halfway back to the west quarters. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the stone path. Han, walking a step behind, furrowed his brows deep in thought. What was in that box? Could it have been something like a hidden blade, or perhaps a secret letter? Woon glanced back. Why the long face? It's not a sad face. Han muttered. There's just something I haven't quite figured out yet. That item you placed in the box, was it silver ingots? Where would I get silver ingots from? Woon replied without pause. Right, we've never once given him silver, Han realized. Then, his eyes widened. What was in the box then? The Converging Clouds Heart Arts Manual, Woon said simply. Han stopped in his tracks. You mean, the Converging Clouds Heart Arts? Why? Is that something I can't give? Han's face went pale. His voice trembled. Young sir, that manual is the most treasured of all the martial arts texts in our collection. It's not something that should be given away so easily. We can still go back to retrieve it, there's still time. But Woon only smiled faintly. Then let's go back, and make another one. What? Han blinked. Make another one? I've memorized the entire thing, Woon said. Every word, every diagram, from beginning to end. If I write it all out again, wouldn't that create another copy? You really memorized the entire manual? Woon gave a small nod. How could I forget something that I had to memorize while being punished, lashed across the calves for every mistake? To prove it, he began reciting from memory. The converging clouds technique is founded on the harmony between conflicting forces. It is divided into 3 stages: passing, combining, and connecting, each representing a step in synchronizing disharmony. Hawn's heart skipped a beat. The opening verse. It's truly the heart arts. A high-level inner key cultivation technique, leagues beyond the average breathing method. And he recites it, this easily. This child is not someone I can measure by ordinary standards. The scene shifted back to the stronghold of the Black Tortoise Core. Within one of its private chambers, Gwon-taek stood over the open wooden box, staring at its contents in disbelief. Nestled within was none other than the Converging Clouds Heart Arts Manual. What in the world is this doing here? He asked, voice tight with disbelief. Vice Leader Il-hoon, who stood beside him, answered with a composed tone. Isn't it as you said? A reward sent by the 7th Sir to Team Leader Jong-moon. Gwon-taek frowned deeply. This is far too valuable to be called a simple reward. Il-hoon's gaze sharpened. If word of this spreads, the 4th Sir will not take it lightly. A Black Tortoise squad captain receiving such a gift from another of the young Sirs, he'll be choking on suspicion. He'll likely have Jong-moon thrown out before the day ends. Should we return the reward then? Gwon asked. Il-hoon shook his head. We've already accepted it. If we return it now, it won't just reflect poorly on us, it will put the 7th Sir in a politically vulnerable position. Then what are we supposed to do? Gwon asked, voice low with tension. Il-hoon paused in thought, then said, We'll handle it like this. He leaned in and quietly shared his plan. After hearing it, Gwon's expression relaxed slightly, and he nodded. What a clever stratagem. Il-hoon gave a dry chuckle. Not clever. Just a temporary patch, something to buy us time. The next morning, before the sun had fully risen, at the gate of the west quarters, Hawn spotted a figure standing in the dim light. Team Leader Jong? What are you doing here so early? Jong-moon, still catching his breath, offered a nervous smile. I've come to request an audience with the young sir. If you tell me your reason, Hawn replied, I'll relay it to him. That I cannot do, Jong said, his expression troubled. Then you cannot meet him, Hawn answered curtly. Jong lowered his head slightly, struggling with the formality. Sir Director, please, that's enough, Hawn interrupted. I serve the young sir. I cannot lead someone to him without even knowing whether he here. Turning away, Hawn began walking back toward the gate. Then return to your squad, Team Leader Jong. But Jong rushed forward, desperation taking over. I cannot do that. Please, I beg of you. And with that, he dropped to his knees on the cold ground. Hawn stopped and turned. Team Leader Jong, must you go this far? Bowing deeply, Jong said. It is that important. Hawn stared at the man kneeling before him and sighed. To think you'd go this far. It can't be helped then. Wait here. Thank you. Hawn walked inside and entered Woon's quarters. As soon as he stepped in, Woon asked, Jong-moon is here, isn't he? That is correct, Hawn said. If he's come this early, I can guess why, Woon said calmly. He's trying to return the Converging Clouds Heart Arts. Is that really the reason? What other reason could there be? Hawn frowned. But that's not a good move, is it? For us it might be, Woon replied with a hint of amusement. But inwardly, he grew more serious. Has Fourth Brother's jealousy already reached this far? Or did pressure come from within the Black Tortoise squad itself? Turning back to Hawn, he said, I think it's better to meet him than to turn him away. But young sir, Hawn argued, if we take the manual back now, it won't look good. People will talk. Woon tilted his head. Then we simply don't take it back. But he came here to return it. Woon was silent for a moment. Then he said, Director Hawn, don't worry about it. Let him in. A little while later, Hawn escorted Jong-moon into Woon's room. Jong bowed deeply in respect the moment he entered. Since young sir allowed him in, he must have something in mind, Hawn thought, watching quietly. You've come to the library at dawn, Woon said. Is there something urgent? Without hesitation, Jong reached inside his robes and picked out the manual. Young sir, I have received a gift I cannot accept. I know it is improper to return a gift, but I believe this is not something I can keep. With that, he presented the manual, his posture deferential. Woon gave him a calm look. So you do understand manners? Has someone else seen the manual? Jong blinked, surprised. No, sir. I am the only one who has seen it. You came running over before dawn, clutching a gift no one else has even seen, Woon said coldly. That's far too hasty, Team Leader Jong. You do realize, by doing so, it gives the impression that we're close. Too close. And the Black Tortoise squad leans toward my fourth brother. If rumors spread that we share a special bond, do you think he'll sit quietly? Jong's shoulders trembled. I didn't consider it so deeply, I'll ask once more, Woon said, his voice sharp. Are you certain no one else saw the book? Jong's mind drifted to the moment yesterday when Won-taek handed him the box, his voice serious. Jong, accept this as if you never received the Converging Clouds heart arts. That's the only way everyone stays safe. Was he telling me to return it discreetly? Jong wondered. Meanwhile, Woon watched him closely. There's no way no one saw it. Coming here like this, and trying to hand it back so quickly, just like Director Han said, a terrible move. He's clearly been pressured. Which means, someone wants this covered up. I believe, Woon said at last, that it's better if you keep the Converging Clouds heart arts. Jong looked up sharply. I must return it. Woon's voice rose. Jong-moon! The room went still. After a beat, Woon exhaled slowly and regained his composure. Are you playing the role of a self-righteous noble all the way to the end? A noble? Jong echoed. I would never presume. If you're overly modest, you become exactly like them, Woon said. Team Leader Jong, tell me, what is the justice that the true cult pursues? Jong answered immediately. Strength, sir. Exactly, Woon said. Relentless pursuit of strength. That's why the Heavenly Demon Dod Cult stands in opposition to the Myeong Union. They train for justice, we train for power. The Converging Clouds heart arts will elevate your ki far beyond its current state, and yet you turn it away out of misplaced modesty. That's not following the true cult's teachings. That's weakness. Jong dropped his forehead to the ground. Your subordinate was not thoughtful enough. Then return and reflect, Woon said coolly. Think carefully about what the true cult's teachings truly are. Jong lifted his head, his voice reverent. Your subordinate will engrave the young sir's words into his heart. And silently he thought, at such a young age, his understanding runs this deep. Truly, the blood of the Heavenly Demon is different. The next morning, in the Black Tortoise Corps' training arena, Jong stood overseeing the training of his squad, barking orders as he observed their lackluster performance. Faster! Your swords are too slow! He shouted. From a distance, Woon watched them and remarked. They don't seem particularly eager about this. The great mountain sword arts they're practicing is a fundamental technique of the Heavenly Demon Divine Cult. The Black Tortoise Corps focuses on mastering the Black Tortoise 42nd sword, a key aspect of this art. Woon continued. But it almost feels as though they're implying they can't show me sword techniques that aren't part of the great mountain sword arts. Han, standing beside him, answered with a hint of sarcasm. Isn't that obvious? Woon, intrigued, asked. What's your take on it? Han observed. They've mastered the basics, but their martial skills still lack refinement. Though, when compared to the White Tiger Corps or Vermilion Bird Corps, they are far from the strongest. Woon processed this for a moment. So, even the Black Tortoise Corps' elite teams aren't exceptional? The 17th team doesn't stand out right now. Their captain, Jong, should be similar. But I'm looking toward the future with him, so I'm not too concerned. He then added, almost to himself. At this rate, even fourth brother won't stay silent for long, right? Han answered. He won't have much of a choice. Woon's thoughts grew heavy. I came here once more, hoping for a reaction from fourth brother, Myeong-un. If there's still no change after all of this, maybe I've misjudged him. He started moving away, thinking over the situation. Noticing Woon's departure, Han called out. Where are you headed? Woon answered. I have something I need to do. Keep me updated on Jong and relay any news you hear. As you wish, Han responded. Later that evening, Woon sat alone in a room in the West Quarter, reflecting on his training. He thought to himself, this is the basics of the breathing technique. It's different from the 9-sex lotus position. I place my hands on my knees, not on my ki center. He focused on his breath, pulling air deep into his body through his nose and releasing it slowly through his mouth. The start is promising. The foundation of inner key heart arts is the empty heart concept, a state where no satisfaction is allowed. I must focus to the point where time loses its meaning. Hours passed, and the sound of 2 strikes from a wooden bell broke his concentration. It's 2 in the morning, Woon thought. Let's finish for today. He stood up, sweat beginning to bead on his forehead. This is deep sweat stage. The speed at which I'm advancing is incomparable to before, Woon realized, but then an unsettling thought crossed his mind. This is troubling, getting so excited over just reaching the deep sweat stage. The people I need to catch up to are already in the ranks of first-rate martial artists. Suddenly, his legs gave way, and he collapsed to the floor. I'm weak. I've reached the deep sweat stage without even having a true ki center. Pathetic. I'm still far behind my first brother, Myeong-un. I have an 18-year head start, but I'm still nowhere near him in terms of martial arts or experience. Even Myeong-woon, my third brother, is an expert now. He's already leading the first line. If I want to close this gap, I can't afford to fall here. Despite his frustration, Woon struggled to stand but couldn't manage it. I need to build my stamina first. I'll do it properly from tomorrow. Later, Han overheard someone breathing deeply and mumbled to himself, I think I hear someone sleeping. The next morning, Han hurried to Woon's side, calling out his name as he approached. What is it? Woon asked as he turned to face Han. Han reported. Jong has been relegated. He's been sent to the garrison at the Great Mountain entrance, Chonghungha Peak. Woon pondered the news for a moment. A relegation instead of an expulsion, it's not ideal, but it's the next best option. He then said. So, we won't be able to bring him here right away? Han replied. It seems so, but it looks like he can join us soon. Woon nodded. Then I'll leave the rest to you, Director Han. Han immediately kneeled before him. As you wish, young sir. A month later, Woon reflected on his training as he continued to practice the Taigong Ki cultivation technique. It's already been a month since I started. I finally have a Ki center, though it's only the size of a fingertip. But it's progress. I've passed the first hurdle. He smiled inwardly. The high sky heart arts are ideal for expanding the Ki center, especially the lower one. Now I just need to steadily accumulate Ki and convert it into inner strength. As he continued, he thought, the amount of Ki I've gathered is not insignificant. Is this the result of reaching the deep sweat stage so quickly? If I keep going at this pace, I should be able to open my middle Ki center in 3 years. As the scene transitioned into the gentle hush of early morning, the soft light of dawn spilled into Woon's room. The silence was broken by the quiet footsteps of his personal maid, who entered with measured grace. Young master, she called gently. It is time to wake. Woon stirred beneath the covers, eyes barely open as he murmured. What time is it? It's just past 5 in the morning, the maid replied. Woon frowned slightly, his voice groggy but inquisitive. And what pressing matter could possibly bring you here at such an early hour? The maid bowed respectfully. Today is the appointed day, young master, the day you are to meet the cult leader. Woon blinked, slowly sitting up as the weight of her words settled in. So it's today. The day I meet the cult leader, my father. Later, after preparing himself, Woon made his way through the grand corridors of the Heavenly Demon Cult's inner palace. Awaiting him outside the central hall was Suk Bayan, the poised and elegant head maid of the Grand Flower Palace, and also his father's trusted secretary. Woon regarded her silently. She's known for both her martial prowess and her refined beauty. One of father's closest aides. Then he added to himself, yet, no matter how close she is, she's still forbidden from becoming his mistress. Now that I think about it, wasn't she from the Guizhou Suk clan as well? Why do I keep running into people from that clan? Without exchanging pleasantries, Bayan offered a courteous nod. I shall guide you from here, 7th young master, she said, her voice composed. She gestured to a spot nearby and added, It would be best for Director Han to wait here. Han bowed deeply to Woon. Your subordinate shall remain outside, young master. With that, Bayan turned and said simply, Then please this way. Shortly after, Woon entered the waiting room and took his seat. Bayan offered a small smile. Once again, the young master has arrived before everyone else. Woon replied calmly. Isn't it only natural for the youngest to come early? Bayan arched a brow. And why would that be obvious? I believe it's unreasonable to make my father or my elder brothers wait, Woon said, his tone even. Bai Yun's eyes glimmered with approval. A good answer. You've clearly learned much from your reading. She paused, observing him quietly. His gaze is clearer, his voice more composed, even the way he carries himself is softer, more measured. Something about him has changed. Woon smiled faintly. I have been learning a lot from books, but not everything can be found within them. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of his sixth brother, Tak, who entered with his usual boisterous tone. Guidance, please! Bai Yun turned and quickly led him to his seat. Spotting Woon already seated, Tak frowned in surprise. You came from the western quarters, didn't you? How'd you get here before me? I left early, Woon replied evenly. Tak narrowed his eyes. Not because you were up to something sneaky? I had no such thoughts. I was simply in a hurry. Really? As the two brothers exchanged words, Bai Yun watched quietly. I see now, what's changed in him. He's gained composure. He didn't have that before. When did that shift happen? What changed his heart like this? Her musings were cut short by another arrival, Woon's fifth brother, Myeong-jong, who entered with a flourish. It seems you two were in a rush this morning. It's a problem if I'm late, brother, Tak responded. Woon studied Jong with calm eyes. The loud voice, the exaggerated mannerisms. I wouldn't have noticed before, but now I see it clearly. He's putting on an act to hide his true thoughts. Jong embraced Tak briefly. How have you been? Good, but brother, give me a moment. Tak stepped aside as Jong turned his attention to Woon. And how are you, Woon? Woon rose respectfully. It's been a while, brother. I've spent most of my time reading. Reading? Jong said, raising an eyebrow. Still wrapped up in Confucius this, Mencius that? I've been reading the holy scriptures of the divine cult as well. Woon's inner voice added, he's trying to rattle me. Not this time. At that moment, Bai Yun stepped forward. The great cult leader is arriving. All eyes turned toward the heavy door. He's finally here, Woon thought. The grand door opened, and a powerful presence entered the room, Myeong-jong, the leader of the Heavenly Demon Divine Cult, and Woon's father. It's been a while, sons, he said, his voice commanding yet composed. How long are you going to keep standing? Sit down. All three brothers answered respectfully and took their seats. Myeong-jong's gaze settled on Jong. Your training seems to have progressed. Jong gave a modest bow. It's still far from enough. He's bluffing again, Woon observed. Even Jong is nervous. If you continue with diligence, the day will come when your aspirations will be realized, Myeong-jong said. Thank you, father. He turned to Tak. And you, have you chosen your path? I have, Tak replied. I wish to walk the path of the four great protection laws. So you place your focus on martial arts. I will devote myself to it, starting now. Watching Tak's trembling hands, Woon mused, even Tak is this tense. Was meeting father always so burdensome? Then, Myeong-jong turned to Woon. I've heard rumors that you've had an enlightenment. Woon blinked. He didn't say change, but enlightenment? He answered humbly. It's nothing worthy of such a term. No need to hide it from your father, Myeong-jong said. Enlightenment isn't only about martial arts. A shift in the heart, a renewed will to learn, a new way of living, those are all forms of enlightenment. I've simply been living each day with purpose, Woon replied quietly. Bai Yun's thoughts stirred again. To remain that composed before the cult leader, even his brothers falter. Could the youngest truly be a worthy candidate for succession? Tak leaned toward Jong and whispered. I answered well, right? Jong gave him a side glance. That's just like Tak. But was Woon always like this? Then, Myeong-jong addressed them all. Do you have anything you desire? Jong, you go first. I lack nothing, thanks to the support around me. And you, Tak? I would like a double-edged sword. If you prove your progress in martial arts, I shall gift you one. Thank you, father. Finally, his gaze turned to Woon. And you? Last again, Woon thought. If I answer well here, it might go smoothly. He bowed slightly. I don't know what you'll think of this, but I would like silver ingots. Silver ingots? To buy more books? No, then what for? Woon hesitated briefly, then answered with care. Until now, I've focused only on my own studies and neglected those under my care. A few days ago, I went to inspect their lodgings, and the conditions were worse than I expected. So the silver is for them? Myeong-jong asked. I believe a man who cannot care for those around him is no better than a pretender in noble robes, Woon said, inwardly hoping his words would land well. Please, let this work. A low chuckle escaped the cult leader. I cannot allow my youngest son to become a pretender. I will provide the silver ingots. A short while after his private meeting with the cult leader, Woon stepped out of the pavilion. Waiting nearby, Han approached him with concern. Young master, may I ask what happened inside? He inquired. Woon raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I heard laughter, loud enough to echo from the pavilion all the way here. Han explained. Woon paused, surprised. Was it really loud enough to be heard from here? He wondered, then answered casually. It was nothing. I just asked father for some silver ingots. Wait, silver ingots? Han blinked in disbelief. Young master, did you ask for silver instead of martial arts instruction? Is that so strange? Woon replied with a faint smile. It's very strange, Han said firmly. You gave up a rare opportunity to learn martial arts. Who knows when a chance like that will come again? Forget about that, Woon said, waving it off. Just make sure the drill hall is prepared when we return. At that, Han's eyes widened. A drill hall? Who's going to use it? And for what? Woon shot him a look. You asked too many questions. Of course, I'll be the one using it, to train my martial arts. Han blinked in disbelief. Have you learned martial arts before? Or are you planning to hire a teacher with the silver you received from the cult leader? Woon sighed. What are you going on about now? I'm not using the money for that. I'm not using the money for that. Then, have you already decided how to use it? Han asked. I have, Woon said as he handed him a scroll. There's something I need you to take care of. Recruit the people listed here. I figured it's about time I had my own guards at the western quarters. Han unrolled the scroll and skimmed through the names. Are these people trustworthy? They are, Woon said with certainty. At least, that's what I believe. As Han read further, he thought to himself, the young master has never stepped foot outside the western quarters. That means these names must have been recommended by someone backing him. It's worth a try. He gave a nod. Understood. Leave it to me. There's one more thing, Woon added. Improve the lodging and meals for the servants staying in the western quarters. And if anyone's struggling with problems at home, make sure they get help. Is that really necessary? Han asked, a bit skeptical. It seems excessive. That's exactly why I asked father for the money, Woon explained. I told him I wanted to treat the people under me better. So I'll only use 200 liang. That should be enough. Meanwhile, back at the pavilion, cult leader Jung remained seated with Yun at his side. What do you think? Jung asked. You're speaking of Woon, aren't you? Yun responded. Jung nodded. Why would he ask for silver ingots when what he truly needs is martial training? Yun replied thoughtfully. Perhaps it's because he's not looking upward, but downward. He's lived too far at the bottom to concern himself with climbing higher. Maybe it's natural for him to look at those beneath him rather than aim above. And honestly, isn't that a wise way to see the world? Jung leaned back, deep in thought. I think quite the opposite. What if, just maybe, he's already recognized that he's standing at the top? That there are people below him, and he's acknowledged them? Then the shift in his behavior, his recent choices, they all make sense. Yun mused. He understands exactly who he is and the position he's in, Jung said quietly. That's a trait a true ruler must possess. But cult leader, could that not be a cruel burden for Woon to bear? She asked gently. Jung's gaze grew distant. It would be, if he were a boy overflowing with ambition. But if he's not, then perhaps a new path will open before him. Yun hesitated, then asked. Are you considering becoming his support, his backing? Jung shook his head. I don't believe I can. But what about him? She asked softly. The scene cut back to Woon, who stood in the center of the drill hall. Suddenly, he sneezed and rubbed his nose, muttering to himself. Is someone talking about me? He looked around the space, a nostalgic expression settling over his face. It's been a long time since I've held a sword. Picking up a wooden practice sword, he exhaled slowly. All right, let's begin. He began to swing the sword around at a steady rhythm. I'll let myself look a little clumsy. If there's a spy hiding nearby, they'll report what they see, a talentless prince with no skill. Let them underestimate me. From a distance, one of the maids observed his movements closely. That's the great mountain sword arts, she thought, eyes narrowing. Who taught him? Perhaps General Han? His stance is flawless, but there's no force behind it. He lacks internal energy. He wouldn't last in a real battle. Maybe this is his way of telling others not to bother with him. But just then, Woon's movements shifted subtly. Without realizing it, he executed a technique that didn't belong to the Great Mountain style. Wait, that wasn't part of that form, the maid thought, her eyes widening. That technique, it's not from the Great Mountain sword arts at all. Woon blinked in alarm. Damn. I went too far. That was close. I almost revealed the Phantom Blade technique. Hopefully, no one noticed. A quiet chuckle caught him off guard. Startled, Woon turned. Who's there? A maid stepped forward, bowing her head low. Forgive me, young master. I've committed a great offense. Woon's expression softened. Lift your head. I won't punish you. What is your name? I am Myeong-un, she answered respectfully. Do you know martial arts? He asked. I've trained a little, before entering this household, she replied honestly. It's not unusual, Woon thought. Many servants here have some background in martial arts. In that case, from now on, you're responsible for maintaining and cleaning this drill hall. I understand, young master, Myeong-un said, bowing once more. I shall carry out your orders faithfully. The scene shifted to the headquarters of the Vermilion Bird Squad. Within a sturdy, candlelit room, the vice leader of the squad sat across from Han, his expression tinged with suspicion. Is this really the kind of request you want to bring to us? The vice leader asked, voice low and measured. Han nodded. It's not my request. The young master chose it personally. The vice leader raised an eyebrow. Is that so? He trailed off, eyes narrowing as his thoughts wandered. Zhou Kuang. That name rings no bells. If he were a martial artist of any renown, I would have at least heard of him. Could he be hiding his abilities, concealing his internal arts all this time? To test the waters, the vice leader quietly released a wave of his ki. The invisible pressure filled the surrounding like a sudden drop in air, pressing down on Han's shoulders. If there's anything you know, the vice leader said coldly, now would be a good time to speak, General Han. Under the crushing force of the ki, Han fought to maintain composure. Is this the rumored trill arts? He thought, startled. I didn't expect the vice leader to possess such refined internal energy. He's not even the group leader, and yet, he's making it clear, my status as a general from the western quarters means little to him. Still, Han stood firm. The young master simply wants a guard for personal protection. A guard? The vice leader repeated, his suspicion not abating. Yes, Han explained. The living conditions at the western quarters have improved lately. We finally have enough means to hire a proper guard. That may be so, the vice leader said slowly. But my question remains, why Zhou Kuang specifically? Han hesitated, then said plainly. While conditions have improved, we're still not in a position to invite any well-known martial masters. We're doing what we can with what little we have. So, the vice leader said, a bit of condescension creeping into his tone. You're saying you're hiring a nameless martial artist simply because you can't afford better? Han gave a dry smile. I won't deny it. It's a little embarrassing to say aloud, but yes. The vice leader leaned back, arms crossed. I understand your situation, but that still doesn't fully answer my concern. I really don't know more than what I've already said, Han admitted. After a pause, the vice leader turned and started walking toward the interior of the base. Very well. I'll review the young master's request. Han gave a respectful bow. On behalf of the young master, I thank you. As the vice leader disappeared inside, Han let out a slow breath. Trill arts. That pressure. It shaved 10 years off my life. If there are 4 more people like him to deal with, how many years will I have left? Later that night, Han rushed back to the western quarters, visibly flustered. His voice was urgent as he approached Woon. Young master! We need to cut ties immediately with the person who gave you that list. Woon looked at him, puzzled. Why? What's happened? I was the one who made that list, he thought silently. There's not a single decent person on it, Han said, throwing up his hands. Not one. Is it really that bad? Woon asked. It's worse than bad, Han replied with exasperation. Every person on the list is either incompetent, dangerous, or completely unreliable. If you go through with this, the western quarters will become a den of misfits. Woon considered this. They may not be experts now, but as far as I remember, Most of them are at least on par with Haisha Corps' vice captain, Kwan Wook. Han continued, clearly frustrated. Zhou Quan of the Vermilion Bird Squad might just be an unknown, which is tolerable. But Peng Hieching from the White Tiger Squad? He's a drunkard. A lazy, belligerent drunkard with minimal martial ability. Woon's eyes widened slightly. Hieching? Was he really like that? And that's not even the worst of it. Han went on. Quan Hume from the Red Wind Squad, he's in the underground prison for mutiny. That innocent boy, imprisoned? Woon thought, startled. And the rest are just as bad! Han exclaimed. One's a notorious thief, and another spent so much time in brothels they practically lived there. Young master, please think this over carefully. Why in the world do you want people like this as your guards? Woon's gaze lowered, thoughtful. 2 of them were promoted to squad leaders, and the other 3 eventually became vice squad leaders. He looked up and said calmly, So what? Even if we hire them and they turn out to be failures, it's not like we'll lose anything. Han stared at him, confused. What do you mean by that? They may be unknowns now, but that doesn't make them bad people. Woon replied. If they cause problems, we can always dismiss them later. They're a bit different from the versions I knew, Woon admitted silently, but people change, and they have potential. Han rubbed the back of his head. Well, you make a fair point. With this kind of track record, even if we kick them out later, no one will blame the Western Quarters. It won't hurt our reputation. He brightened suddenly and said, Then how about we test them first? Put them through trials before making anything official. Woon smiled. That's a good idea. Let's do it. The morning sun poured through the slanted windows of the Western Quarters drill hall, casting long shadows over the polished wooden floor. The atmosphere was already tense. 2 of the contestants, brought in for Woon's personal guard selection, had abandoned civility and were now locked in a fierce sparring match. Nearby, a man with a calm demeanor in greenish robes, Zhou Quan, stepped forward, attempting to intervene and separate the fighters. His hand reached out, voice steady. That's enough, both of you. From his seat on the raised platform, Woon observed the escalating brawl with mild surprise. Did they start fighting on their own? He asked. They've got issues, Han replied with a sigh, folding his arms. Plenty of them. Woon didn't seem perturbed. Instead, he leaned back slightly and gestured casually. Since they've already started, we might as well watch. Let's see what kind of skills they're hiding. The clash continued. One of the fighters, a thick-set man with a muscular build and bare arms, charged forward, throwing a heavy punch toward his opponent, a tall, pale-skinned man with golden hair who moved with fluid grace. That one, Han said, gesturing to the golden-haired man, is Zhang Yang's. He's nimble, deceptively fast, and has good technique. Woon nodded slowly as he watched Yang's twist his body and evade the blow with an elegant footwork maneuver, almost dancing across the floor. So he's the improviser I heard about, Woon thought, studying the smooth synergy between Yang's hands and feet. The rumors weren't wrong. What about his opponent? Woon asked, pointing to the muscular fighter who now launched another aggressive flurry of punches. Quan Hume, Han answered. Former member of the Red Wind Squad. He prefers overwhelming his opponents with brute strength. Woon's gaze lingered on the fight a moment longer. They're both skilled, he noted. But letting this drag on would be a waste of time. He turned slightly. It doesn't look like this will end anytime soon. Break them up. At your command, Han said with a nod. Just as Han prepared to move, Quan Hume growled. You rat bastard! And charged again, eyes burning. Yang smoothly sidestepped him, reappearing behind the larger man in a blink. If I'm a rat, then you're a pig bastard, he said with a smirk. My turn. With a sudden leap, Yang soared into the air and unleashed a rapid barrage of strikes. His fists peppered Quan Hume's shoulders and chest with blinding speed. Quan Hume grunted, momentarily stunned. He's fast, but these punches, light as feathers. With a growl, he roared, I'll end you now! And swung his meaty fist toward Yang's chest. Yang didn't flinch. That's what I'd like to say, he countered, stepping in for another exchange. But before either could land another blow, a powerful force surged between them. Han stepped forward and raised his hand, and in an instant both fighters were flung backward by the force of his ki. Enough, Han said sharply, standing at the center of the ring like a wall of calm authority. Zhang Yang groaned as he slid to a halt and blinked toward the man who had interrupted the fight. Who was that? He muttered under his breath. He's no ordinary man, he's a master. I am General Kang Han of the Western Quarters, Han announced. Now everyone, pay your respects to the young master. At that, the 5 gathered contestants turned toward the platform. Woon rose from his seat and gave a slight nod in acknowledgement. The group consisted of Jo Kwang in greenish attire, Ha Human in a black and white outfit, Peng Hyunchun with a plump figure in brown robes, and the 2 earlier combatants, Jang Yangs and Kwan Hyum. Woon's voice rang out calmly. You've all been summoned here today as candidates to become warrior guards of the Western Quarters. The moment he spoke those words, the air seemed to shift. Some of the men exchanged glances, their interest clearly waning. Yangs looked away, clearly unimpressed. Warrior guards of the West Quarters. Who would even recognize us for such a title? Human stifled a yawn and thought lazily, let's get this over with. I need a drink. Han noticed a shift in their attitudes. They're clearly looking down on us, he thought, jaw tightening slightly. But Woon noticed too, and unlike Han, he smiled. So they're underestimating the West Quarters, he thought. Good. Then, with a tone that was far too casual to match the gravity of his next words, Woon added, I suggest you take this seriously. Those who aren't selected today will be sent immediately to Mount Baowei. The effect was instantaneous. All 5 contestants froze, the color draining from their faces. Mount Baowei. They thought in unison. Isn't that the place where corpses come down more often than survivors? The frontmost line of the Heavenly Demon Dod Cult? He's sending us there just for failing a simple guard exam? Woon, suppressing a smirk, turned away and walked toward the rack of practice weapons. Now then, he said, his voice carrying, loosen up your bodies. Let's begin. At the Guizhou Suk clan, the clan patriarch, Myeong-jung Suk, inquired about the great cult leader. In response, the 7th Sir, Bai Yun, advised, Sir Patriarch, I believe it would be unwise to place too much importance on the cult leader's words. It seems the great cult leader is merely curious about the changes shown by the 7th young lord. There's no reason to risk the fate of the entire clan over a passing interest. Internally, she thought, Woon does not belong in the successor competition, a battlefield drenched in blood and schemes. Myeong-jung calmly stated, Our former great cult leader once told me, no ship can sail without the wind. Bai Yun respectfully replied, There is only the slightest chance of the 7th young lord winning the successor competition. Myeong-jung answered, I am not expecting the 7th young lord to accomplish great feats. I simply intend to use him as weight, to tip the balance. Bai Yun hesitated and then said, Sir Patriarch, regarding the 7th young lord, I fear this may be too cruel a path. Myeong-jung asked, What do you mean by too cruel? Bai Yun explained, Isn't being forgotten as the powerless youngest even crueler? The scene shifted to the training ground, where all the participants appeared exhausted. Human thought, how long are we supposed to keep this up? Is he testing our limits? John Yangs grumbled internally, damn it. Who would have thought this would turn into day and night, non-stop, rotating sparring matches? Kwan Hyum thought with frustration, if we slack off, we'll just end up getting dragged to Mount Baowei, won't we? Noticing their fatigue, Kang Han announced, That's enough for today's exam. Everyone, return to your quarters and rest. Woon asked, So, what do you think, Director Kang? Aren't they quite promising, now that you've seen them? Kang Han responded, They're more than just promising. He thought to himself, this boy isn't just good-looking. Who are these people behind him to discover such talents? Then he said to Woon, If they are properly trained by an exceptional expert, they could easily surpass the average team captain. Woon smiled. Then I must find someone to teach them. At that, Kang Han wondered, is the force behind this young man finally going to make a move? Woon added, Though there's one condition from their side. Kang Han asked, What kind of condition? Woon explained, They want the bodyguards to be trained in an underground training hall, and they require that no one sees each other's faces during the sessions. Kang Han frowned. Can someone even teach properly without seeing their students' faces? Woon thought, isn't that the only way? If I'm going to be the one teaching them. The next morning, at the training field, Jo Kwang said, Doesn't look like he's here yet. Kwan Hyum added, Seems that way. Jang Yangs asked, I wonder what kind of test we'll be facing today. Kwan Hyum glanced at him. Hey, you good? Jang Yangs shrugged. There's no reason for me to end up in Mount Baowei. No need to be worried. Peng Hyunchun approached and asked, You're Jo Kwang, right? Yes, Jo Kwang answered. Peng Hianchung smirked. You'll probably survive. Surprised, Zhou Kuang asked. I will? Peng Hianchung explained. Young Sir seems to have a particular interest in you. At the very least, you won't be dragged off to Mount Baowei. Humun overheard and laughed. You're not actually believing that nicely packaged lie, are you? At that moment, Kang Han called out. Attention! Is everyone ready? They all replied in unison. We're ready! Kang Han smiled. Good to hear those loud voices. Now gather around. Yes, sir, they responded. Kwan Hyum thought, I don't really care for this bodyguard business, but there's no way I'm getting dragged into Mount Baowei. Zhang Yang's thought, working for the kid is 100 times better than going to Mount Baowei. Seeing the group, Kang Han exchanged a quick glance with Woon, who gave a slight smile. Kang Han then made the announcement. Young Sir has decided to grant you all mercy. All 5 of you have passed. Show your gratitude. Surprised, they all bowed and said, Thank you, young sir. Woon added, But there are some conditions. Peng Hianchun quickly asked. Yes, young sir? Woon said. From today, no more drinking. Peng Hianchun looked confused. What do you mean no drinking? Woon explained. The reason you've fallen behind in your training is because of alcohol. Peng Hianchun defended himself. Young sir, I admit I've skipped some training, but it's not because of alcohol. Please trust me. Woon smiled. Very well. I'll give you a chance to prove it. In 10 days, if you can beat Zhou Kuang in a spar, I'll believe you. Zhou Kuang's face stiffened with shock. Peng Hianchun grinned. Understood. In 10 days, I'll defeat Zhou Kuang and drink to my heart's content. Woon then turned to Kwan Hyum. I've heard you enjoy fighting. Kwan Hyum replied. It's not that I enjoy it. There are just too many people who pick fights with me. Woon said. And why do you think that is? It's because you're the one who always starts the fights. From now on, I forbid you from fighting without cause. I'll give you a chance to prove yourself in 5 days. Kwan Hyum asked. Will I be sparring with Zhou Kuang? Woon confirmed. That's right. He then turned to Human. I've heard you have sticky fingers. If you cause any trouble here, I will cut off your hands and feet. Startled, Human quickly pleaded. Young sir! I'll fix my habits. Please, no such harsh punishment. Woon nodded. Good. Then you'll have your chance too. In half a month, if you can beat Zhou Kuang in a spar, I'll consider the matter settled. Watching all of this, Zhang Yang's thought, even so, cutting off limbs is way too extreme. He knew his turn was next. Before Woon could say anything, Zhang Yang spoke up. If I lose, I'll keep away from women. No, if I lose, I won't even hold a woman's hand. Woon smirked. Very well. You'll spar in 1 month. Until then, no women. Zhang Yang agreed. As you wish. All 4 of them thought, there's no way we'll lose to that bookworm. Woon concluded. That's all. You may return. Zhou Kuang thought, what is the 7th young lord planning by putting all this on me? Just then, Woon called out. As for you, follow me. Later, in the underground training hall at the western quarters, Woon explained. An expert I've invited will be teaching you martial arts here. Zhou Kuang asked. I will be learning martial arts here? Yes. Woon confirmed. If you train under him, you'll be able to handle those 4 without difficulty. Just then, sensing someone's presence nearby, Woon added. We'll need to clean up this training room first. Zhou Kuang asked eagerly. When can I start learning? I would like to begin before my match with Kwan Hyum. Woon asked. Are you saying you can't win against him now? Zhou Kuang answered honestly. I'm ashamed, but yes, that's correct. Woon laughed. You're too honest. A man should have some bluff. Zhou Kuang thought, is he an old man trapped in a young body or what? Woon continued. Remember, if your spirit is defeated, you won't be able to show your skills, no matter how talented you are. You need to loosen up. Training will begin in 2 days. Determined, Zhou Kuang thought, I will break out of this ordinary shell. This time, I will definitely become strong. Woon finished. You can go back up now. I have some things to handle here. Zhou Kuang respectfully replied. As you wish. And turned to leave. As he leaves, Woon said. You can come out now. She said. I am sorry. Woon said. It's fine, never mind that. Did you say you're learning martial arts? And he thought, knowing someone's origin is an important thing here. He said. I would like to see the martial arts you've learned. And he thought, would this child be a tiger's cub? She said. Young sir, with these clothes. Woon replied. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to see what level you are. She said. Understood. Woon thought, become a loyal disciple. I'm excited. A little later, as she started showing her martial art, seeing that, Woon thought, isn't that black wolf leopard fists? How does she know that fist technique? There aren't a lot of places that use black wolf leopard fists in the Heavenly Demon Dod Cult. This is troublesome. She's not from the Great Mountain No, is she? The Great Mountain No clan is connected to fourth brother. Woon said. Stop. She said. I am sorry to show lacking form to your sir. Woon said. You've learned the black wolf leopard fists. Who did you learn it from? She replied. I have learned it from my uncle. Woon asked about her uncle. She said. Yes, his name is Jiang Chio. He works as the 12th team captain of the White Tiger Corps. Woon said. I can trust him if he's the White Tiger Corps. How about sword techniques? She said. I can deploy the Great Mountain Sword technique. Woon said. How long has it been since you've come to the Western Quarters? She said. It's been 3 years. Woon thought, if it's 3 years, she's been here for a while. Why don't I remember her face? He picked out something from his pocket and said, Eat this first. Seeing that, she became shocked. 5 days later, at the training field, Human asked Peng Hyunchung. Who's going to win? Peng Hyunchung said. I'm sorry for Zhou Kwang, but Kwan Hyun will probably win. Human pointed out that Zhou Kwang wasn't showing his face lately. Peng Hyunchung replied. Could he be learning some weird moves from somewhere? At that moment, Zhou Kwang, Woon, and Kang Han arrived at the training ground. Woon said. You were already here. Kwan Hyun replied. Your subordinate has finished all preparations and has been waiting for young sir. Woon asked. Is Zhou Kwang ready as well? Zhou Kwang replied. Yes, sir. Seeing him, Jiang Yans became a little tense and thought, what's this? I don't see emotions on his face. His looks changed too. Kwan Hyun's not going to lose, is he? Woon said. Let's begin immediately. Kang Han announced. Draw your swords. The two of you here will face off with real swords. If the match is not concluded within an hour, I will decide the result. Begin. Kwan Hyun thought, an hour? I will end you within 10 forms. Seeing dodges, he thought, it seems his foundations are quite good at least. He said. If that's the case, here I go. This will be the end. He recalled the memory of 3 days ago, Western Quarters basement training room. Zhou Kwang thought, when I was young I heard compliments that I had excellent martial talents many times. But however much I flail around, I'm just a single martial artist in here. This training is the chance given to me by the heavens. I will grow into a first-rate martial artist. He said. Young sir, Zhou Kwang is here. She said. Please come in. You've arrived. Zhou Kwang thought, this young woman, is she going to teach me? He said. Do you happen to be my teacher? She said. I am not. Please come this way. Woon said from behind a cloth separation. You've come. He bowed down respectfully and said. I, Zhou Kwang, greet my teacher. And he thought, this voice, it's difficult to guess even the gender alone. Woon said. I have heard that you use a sword. Zhou Kwang said. At the Vermilion Bird Corps, I have learned the Great Mountain Sword Technique and Chilean Sword Technique. Woon said. Chilean Sword Technique. As your opponent is from the Red Wind Corps, he will use the Autumn Wind Sword Technique. Zhou Kwang said. Yes. Woon said. The forms of the Autumn Wind Sword Technique are 32 in total, and among them, the third form is called Autumn Spirit Setting Moon. Myeong-un, please demonstrate. Zhou Kwang, seeing her, thought she was a girl that practiced martial arts. Myeong-un then showed him a clean sword movement. Woon said. Most certainly, your opponent will use this fourth form within 3 forms. Can you draw your sword and repeat this form now? Zhou Kwang said. I will try. Zhou Kwang started doing that sword move. Woon asked Myeong-un. How is Zhou Kwang's form? She replied. His steps are improper. Zhou Kwang said. No way, please give me a moment. Woon thought, as expected, not a genius. His talents are average. Zhou Kwang observed himself for a moment, and then said. I now understand what was wrong there. Woon said. Good. Then try deploying that form towards Myeong-un. Zhou Kwang asked. But I am holding a real sword right now. She could get hurt if anything goes wrong. Woon said. I know that. Please go ahead. Zhou Kwang said. Here I go. At present, Kwan Hyun said. Here I go. This will be the end. And used the same sword movement to attack Zhou Kuang. Then Zhou Kuang used the sword technique that was taught by Woon and that he practiced with the girl for the last 3 days, and placed his sword at Quan Hume's neck. Seeing that, Kang Han announced, "The winner of the spar is Zhou Kuang." Pullman became surprised and asked, "It's already over? Who was next again?" Peng Hianqing said, "It's me. I'll have to prepare well then." Seeing the spar, Zhang Yang's thought, "That move, I'm sure, won by you. He has perfectly deconstructed Quan Hume's autumn spirit setting moon. If this was a real fight, Quan Hume would have lost his life. In 1 month, I have to surpass that guy." Woon announced, "I forbid Quan Hume from needless fights for 3 years from now. If you can fight and win against Zhou Kuang after 3 years, I will release your restriction." Both said, "As you wish." Woon said, "This is it for today's spar. You're released." Kang Han said, "Woon, I didn't think you would take him down within 3 forms. It seems like someone who's far better than I expected is teaching him." Woon said, "Right. And thought, that's me, you know me." Kang Han said, "Is it actually the Guzhou Suk clan?" Woon said, "That would be great, but not at the moment." "Never mind that. What about the news from the Qing Xia Hill?" Kang Han asked about Zhang Moon. "According to the person who works with him, he is practicing martial arts day in and day out. Maybe because of that, when I went out looking for him a few days ago, I couldn't even see him." Hearing that, Woon thought, did he fall into the converging clouds hard arts, or is he focusing to forget the fact he was relegated? Well, doesn't matter either way, so long as he can get stronger. That evening, Woon asked Zhou Kuang, "Why do you look saddened even though you have won?" Zhou Kuang replied, "Could I ask a question?" Woon said, "I will allow it." Zhou Kuang said, "How did you know the fact that Quan Hume would use the autumn spirit setting moon within 3 forms?" Woon asked. "Why did you become curious now all of a sudden?" Zhou Kuang said, "I wasn't fully sure at the beginning, but after experiencing it, I got curious." Woon replied, "I have seen you face each other the other day. As Quan Hume's personality is violent and impatient, I thought that he would try to decide the match immediately." Zhou Kuang thought, so 7th Sir having us spar each other on the first day was for teacher to figure out our strengths and weaknesses. Does that mean calling us 5 was all according to plan? Certainly, an expert's thoughts are broader than ours. But that reason is within what I can guess myself. And so, I too would have been able to find a countermeasure. Certainly, I wouldn't have been confident of victory like I am this time though. Seeing him, Woon stated, "You don't seem comfortable even after hearing the answer." Zhou Kuang said, "I truly am sorry." Woon asked, "Do you think that you've won through my abilities?" Zhou Kuang said, "That is correct. I don't believe that I am that much stronger than him to finish the match within 3 forms." Woon smiled and asked, "Do you know the difference between those who learned martial arts and those who didn't?" Zhou Kuang asked. "Do you mean the difference in strength?" Woon replied, "It's the difference in knowledge. Those who learn martial arts learn about how to win against their opponent. You've learned how to win from me. Do you still not get it?" Zhou Kuang said. "My heart isn't moving. I am unable to accept it." Woon said, "Then there will be no other training today. Well, meditate by yourself until you gain the answer to that here." As Woon and Myeong-un stood out looking at the sky, Woon said, "The wind is cold." She said, "It's winter soon." Woon asked, "What do you think?" She said, "I thought that it was a teaching that if you already know what forms the opponents would use, you can easily respond and win against them." Woon replied, "Still far away. Think about it more." She said, "Understood." She thought, however, what I am truly curious about is you, young sir, and she recalled a memory when Woon picked out something from his pocket and said, "Eat this first." She said, "Young sir, this is restriction. My apologies, please forgive me. I do not know what I did wrong, but I cannot eat this." Hearing that, Woon let out a sigh and said, "Seems like there's a misunderstanding. What I've given you is one of the pills known as the 7-star pills. If you take one of the 7-star pills every year, you can earn 30 years of inner ki. I will give you 1 pill every year so that you don't think otherwise. However, if you miss even 1 from the 7, you will lose all of your inner strength, and all of your hair will fall out, rendering you unable to live as a woman." She thought, even if it isn't a lethal poison, the principle is the same. It's still a restriction in the end. Is it an unavoidable fate as long as I've become a divine cult member? Her thought continued, "I will follow young sir, but I want to know just one thing, why me? However much he was born of a noble clan, when he's only a 12-year-old boy, His mind is already as broad and deep as this night sky. Young sir, what kind of a person are you truly? The next day, Woon said, I would like to hear the answer to my question. Since you're still in the middle of wall meditation, just answer without turning around. Jo Kwang said, Know your enemy, know yourself. No losses shall follow in 100 battles. There will be no perilousness if I know myself and my opponent. By knowing my opponent, by knowing their personality, preferences, and everything beyond all that, one can truly say that they know. And knowing the opponent is the foundation of a victory. The process of acting upon the knowledge itself is already the beginning of a fight, meaning you must already be fighting before your fight. That is what I was thinking of as the teaching you have given me. Woon said, As I thought. Good. Then try winning your next spar on your own. 4 days later, Kang Han informed. The meeting this time has been cancelled. Woon said, Really? Looks like father is very busy. Kang Han said, It seems that the movement from Kunlun looked unusual. Woon thought in the future the Kunlun sect will fight the divine cult 3 times and lose twice. Among those, the time Kunlun sect won the fight was only in the year I turned 20. He said, If the opponents are Kunlun, it's not something to be that worried about. Kang Han thought, this relaxedness, even if he's young, the blood of a noble clan is different, I suppose. Woon thought, from what I've heard, it seems that in the last 5 days the 4, excluding Jo Kwang, have come up with a plan after putting their heads together. Of course they should. Kang Han asked. Are they ready? They replied. Yes, sir. Woon thought, if they do not do at least that, what shall I punish that foolishness with? The problem is whether Jo Kwang can go beyond their schemes. Kwan Hyum wasn't difficult, as he is simple-minded, but the other 3 are not the case. I can guess how Peng Hyun-chung would act, but the issue still ends with Jo Kwang. This time, there were no other orders aside from the wall meditation. Truly, was he able to acquire some sort of enlightenment? Kang Han announced. Then begin the spar. Peng Hyun-chung immediately swung his sword attacks at Jo Kwang, who was pushed back while blocking the chain attacks. Seeing this, Kang Han became surprised. Woon asked, What's wrong? Kang Han said, Peng Hyun-chung is deploying the Red Wind Sword technique of the Red Wind Squadron. Wasn't Peng Hyun-chung from the White Tiger Squadron though? Woon said, That is correct. Peng Hyun-chung, gritting his teeth in frustration, thought, he isn't counterattacking. Damn it, is he planning on just defending? Don't tell me he didn't plan to attack from the beginning? Meanwhile, Woon, seeing the fight, thought, the winner is already settled. I'm truly foolish. Can't be this full of doubts. Who could you ever trust if you can't trust a martial artist who has obtained enlightenment? 5 days ago, as the 4 of them gathered at the training ground to discuss and make a plan to defeat Jo Kwang, Peng Hyun-chung said, Jo Kwang deceived us. He is at least 2 levels ahead of us. Kwan Hyum shouted. Underhanded bastard. Human stated. A loss is a loss. Kwan Hyum said, Instead of doing all this, how about putting our heads together? Peng Hyun-chung added. Right, even an empty paper is better stacked together. Zhang Yang said. Kwan Hyum is not an empty paper, just an idiot. Kwan Hyum said. What? Oh, it's gonna be your day today. Zhang Yang asked. Do you really want to go to Mount Baowei? Peng Hyun-chung said. If it's a strong opponent, there is no other option but to go all out as early as possible. Human stated. I disagree. If we hurry like Kwan Hyum, you will end up revealing an opening. Zhang Yang said. I've got an idea for that, but... Peng Hyun-chung asked. What is it? Zhang Yang said. Why should I tell you? What am I supposed to do in a month then? Kwan Hyum, angered by that, said. I'm really gonna get this pretty boy. Peng Hyun-chung said. We will help you. Then I shall make a vow. If I win with your help, I will pay back this debt one day. In the present, Woon thought, it looks like the 4 accepted their difference in skill with Jo Kwang and have prepared a strategy to switch their martial arts around so he makes wrong predictions. As the spar continued, Humun, observing the fight, muttered, He's got one more move left. Kwan Hyum added, I think he came already knowing all of our strategies. Woon watched calmly, thinking, they've likely only exchanged 4 or 5 techniques among themselves, but even so, it's commendable that they're willing to share martial arts with each other. However, Jo Kwang has already predicted this much. Right now, he's devoting nearly 90% of his strength to defense. Kang Han asked with concern. But won't he eventually lose if all he does is defend? Woon shook his head slightly. That won't happen. Up to this point, Zhou Kuang has completely dominated the spar. If two fighters are evenly matched in skill, there's no way to defeat someone who can defend against 90% of your attacks. Peng Hianchun, growing desperate, swung his sword with everything he had, but Zhou Kuang quickly stepped back, causing Peng Hianchun to stumble and expose an opening. In that moment, Zhou Kuang launched a decisive counterattack that landed cleanly. Zhang Yang, startled by the move, exclaimed, "That's the Red Wind Squadron's Autumn Soul of Setting Moon technique!" Woon, unfazed, calmly declared, "Zhou Kuang wins. As promised, Peng Hianchun is now forbidden from drinking. At this rate, I think the outcome of the spar with Human is already obvious." Kang Han commented, "Human uses a spear. No matter what, the spear has the advantage of reach." But inwardly, he wasn't entirely convinced. Will that really make a difference? 5 days later, Zhou Kuang faced Human and emerged victorious once again. Woon announced, "Zhou Kuang has won." Kang Han admitted, "It seems I've underestimated Zhou Kuang." Zhang Yang, watching carefully, thought, normally, in a fight between a spear and a sword, distance is everything. I believed Human could win if Zhou Kuang failed to close the gap. But it seems he knew that all along and purposely never shortened the distance. Just how far ahead is this guy thinking? Kang Han remarked. The spear has the advantage in reach, but it's also heavier. We can see this spar as Zhou Kuang skillfully dragging the fight into a battle of endurance. But Woon saw deeper. That's not the only reason. Human lost because he believed from the start that if Zhou Kuang got close, he would lose. That fear drove him to keep Zhou Kuang at bay, swinging his spear continuously to maintain distance. Zhou Kuang saw through that fear, exploited it, and deliberately managed the distance to exhaust him. The real reason for Human's defeat was that he had already lost the psychological battle before the fight even began. That night, while cultivating alone in his room, Woon reflected on his progress. It had already been 50 days since he'd entered the deep sweat stage. His inner core had now grown larger than the width of a finger. The high sky heart arts revolves around moving the inner core with the lower chi center as its base. It allows for rapid progress in the early stages. However, every gain comes with a loss. Those who focus their training on the lower chi core often struggle to open the middle chi core later on. That's why the 9 great schools dismiss this path, calling it a road too difficult to achieve true greatness. But in the end, what truly matters is reaching the stage of enlightenment, the opening of the upper chi center. In his previous life, Woon had already reached that stage. It's a path I've already walked once. This time, I will surpass even that step. The following morning, Woon asked, "What brings Director Kang here so early?" Kang Han reported, "It seems there will be a major battle at Kunlun soon. They said Second Sir is leading the conquest army." Woon was momentarily surprised. "Myeonggak is going? He's already stepping onto the front lines," he asked. "Is the Soul Sword Squadron going as well?" Kang Han confirmed. "Yes. They say Second Sir's Soul Sword Squadron will be at the vanguard, with the White Tiger Squadron supporting them from the rear. I thought that perhaps, on the day of Second Sir's deployment, you might want to go to the castle gates to see him off." Woon considered it silently. "Me? Cheering for Myeonggak? You mean I should go cheer for the man who killed me? Of course, Myeonggak will win. Standing on the winner's side isn't a bad move, but still," he said. "Director Kang, I won't be following your suggestion this time." Kang Han asked. "May I know why?" Woon replied. "Second brother is deeply suspicious. It would be fine if he were merely cautious, but if he begins to notice me, things will become complicated. Right now, we need to focus on building our strength and waiting for the right opportunity." Kang Han nodded. "Understood, young sir." Woon added. "There's something else I'd like you to do." Kang Han asked. "What is it?" Woon instructed. "Go to the White Tiger Squadron and buy the NAK-san mansion from them." Later, in the underground training room of the West Quarters, Zhou Kuang was diligently practicing his sword techniques. Myeong-un observed him quietly for a while before heading to Woon's room. Woon asked, "How is he progressing?" She replied, "He's focusing solely on his training again today." Woon said, "Good. Soon, there won't be many more days of me personally teaching Zhou Kuang." She added, "But the other 4 still need more instruction." Woon agreed. "Yes, they'll require more time." She remembered a recent conversation with Zhou Kuang, when he had sincerely thanked her. She had told him, "It seems like you've completely changed from who you used to be." Zhou Kuang had simply replied, Is that so? Perhaps it's because I've had a small realization. Realization? She thought. What could that be? Zhou Kuang had continued. Even though I haven't interacted with him much, teacher's words gave me that realization. Teacher? There aren't many masters who can spark a realization with just a few words, she thought. Determined, she said to Woon. Young sir, please grant me teaching as well. Woon asked. Teaching? She nodded. Yes. Even something small. I was born the daughter of a simple farming family, but I was fortunate to catch the attention of my uncle, a martial artist, and was able to learn the basics from a young age. But when I wanted to go further, I hit a wall. There was no one left to guide me. If you would grant me even the smallest lesson, I am willing to devote myself to mastering even a single phrase. Woon asked. Why are you asking me this so suddenly? She lowered her gaze. Forgive me, but I simply wish to become strong, just like Zhou Kuang. Woon warned. It won't be easy. Are you truly prepared? Without hesitation, she said. Of course, sir. Woon instructed. Then kneel on one knee and raise your head. In the divine cult, when requesting to become a disciple, one kneels on one leg. If the teacher places their hand on the student's head, they are accepted. If not, they are rejected. This is the disciple acceptance rite of the divine cult. She asked. Young sir, isn't this the formal disciple ceremony? I've only. Woon interrupted. So I ask you now, Myeong-un, may I accept you as my first disciple? She blinked in surprise. How could that be? Isn't Zhou Kuang your first disciple? Woon answered. He hasn't completed the rite yet. But never mind that. I'm waiting for your answer. Without hesitation, she said. I shall serve you as my master until the day I die. Woon smiled. I'll be counting on you. A few days later, Woon asked. So, did he really refuse to sell in the end? Kang Han reported. I made a fair offer, but White Tiger Corps Commander Zhou Jagyeon said, Are you seriously asking us to hand over Anicaps Mansion? Kang Han pressed his offer, saying, Commander, we're not asking you to simply hand it over. How about 1,000 niang of silver? He reasoned, for such a small mansion, that's more than a fair price. He continued, 7th Sir desires it greatly. Please consider the wishes of the young lord who carries the blood of the esteemed Myeong clan. Commander Jagyeon slammed his hand down in frustration. If he wants it so badly, why didn't that youngster come in person? I cannot approve this. Director Kang, you may leave. Woon, upon hearing that Commander Jagyeon had personally refused the offer, made his decision. Director Kang, summon the bodyguards. Immediately. Kang blinked in confusion. What? Why would you need them for this? Woon gave a faint smile. Isn't it obvious what a warrior must do? Shortly after, Woon gathered his group. I'm about to give you your first mission. All 5 responded in unison. Yes, sir. We're heading to the White Tiger Squadron right now. Prepare yourselves quickly. Peng Hianchung's eyes widened. The White Tiger Squadron? Zhang Yang's frowned. Something feels strange about this. Woon simply said. If we can't buy it, we'll have to provoke them. Peng Hianchung asked nervously. You're not planning to cause trouble, right? Woon chuckled. Of course not. Don't be silly. Some time later, a servant ran into Commander Jaejin's residence, shouting. 7th Sir has come in person this time. Jagyeon clicked his tongue. Seems like he really wants this Anicaps mansion. Should I just turn him away? Seated across from him was Myeong-woon, the 3rd son of the Heavenly Demon Divine Cult's leader. Ming calmly advised. Since Woon has come to see you, it's only right to receive him. Jagyeon hesitated. Is that truly acceptable? Ming nodded. It is. I'll listen from behind the scenes. Internally, he thought, I'm curious to see what Woon has planned. Jagyeon eventually agreed. If that's 3rd young sir's wish, bring 7th Sir inside. While waiting, Ming's subordinate quietly reported. 7th Sir's recent actions have been unusual. Ming asked. Do you mean the fact that he's gathered those 5 troublemakers from each squadron? The subordinate added. It's not just that. There's a rumor he's also made contact with the Black Tortoise Squadron connected to his maternal Guzhou Shi family. Ming raised an eyebrow. Black Tortoise Squadron? You're underestimating June. Ming thought to himself, my 4th brother is consumed by jealousy. He's never been one to share power. I'm not much different, but right now, it's all I can do to keep up with the 2 ahead of me. Just then, the gate servant announced. Seventh Sir is entering. As Woon stepped in, he politely greeted Commander Jagyeon. Jagyeon asked directly, "What brings you all the way here, young lord?" Woon answered. Director Kong returned empty-handed from his negotiations. Jaejin's expression tightened. "Ah, so you're here about the NAK-san mansion. Please, have a seat. You may not realize this, but the NAK-san mansion is a key base for the White Tiger Squadron. Losing that mansion would be like the squadron losing an entire arm." Woon listened calmly but thought, NAK-san mansion is as important as losing an arm? He's talking as if I know nothing about the world. He's underestimating me. Feigning curiosity, Woon asked, "Really? NAK-san mansion is that important?" Jagyeon nodded. "Yes. The White Tiger Squadron forges all our weapons using iron or mine from NAK-san mansion. Without it..." Before he could finish, Woon interrupted smoothly. "Then I'll offer to supply the White Tiger Squadron with all the iron ore from NAK-san mansion for free. The White Tiger Squadron fights to protect our divine cult. It's only right that we provide support." Kang Han was shocked. "Young sir!" he blurted out, but Woon quickly whispered, "Kang, I'm talking." "Hold your tongue," Kang whispered back anxiously. "For free? Not even at half price?" Seeing their exchange, Jagyeon smirked inwardly. He's burning up inside while this boy is rambling on as if he knows nothing. Still, it's not a bad offer. But even though he's just a child, he's still the cult leader's son. Having him hanging around would only bring unnecessary headaches. Jagyeon replied, "Thank you for your generosity, but the White Tiger Squadron has over 500 members and commands 32 citadels. What would people say if we started relying on support from the Western quarters? Please, I must ask you to let this one go." Woon firmly shook his head. "No, I can't do that." Jagyeon raised an eyebrow. "Then what do you propose?" Woon answered confidently. "Let's settle this with a bet." "A bet?" Jagyeon echoed, intrigued. "Yes. 5 members from the White Tiger Squadron will face my 5 bodyguard warriors. The first side to win 3 matches will claim victory. If I win, NAK-san mansion will become the property of the Western quarters. If I lose, I will quietly back off without complaint." Kang Han paled, thinking, from the White Tiger Squadron's perspective, this is a pointless gamble. If they win, they gain nothing. But if they lose, it's a tremendous humiliation. Ming, listening quietly, sneered to himself. He's betting with those 5 idiots? Ridiculous. After laying out his proposal, Woon stepped outside to give Jagyeon time to consider the offer. Ming stepped into the room and said with a slight grin, "Woon has made quite an amusing proposal." Jagyeon scoffed. "Amusing? Hardly. He's underestimating us, thinking he can challenge the White Tiger Squadron after taking in 5 wandering drifters." Ming calmly asked, "But what if he's actually confident in their abilities?" Without answering, Jagyeon turned to his attendant. "Summon the 7 unit immediately." Some time later, at the White Tiger Squadron's training grounds, Kang Han spoke in disbelief. "I didn't expect Commander Jagyeon to accept the bet." Woon responded. "Jagyeon is normally composed and level-headed, but in the end, he's still a martial artist. He would have wanted to resolve this through strength." Kang thought to himself, did this 12-year-old really just see through the nature of a veteran commander? "But still," Kang added, "this time you've gone too far." Woon glanced at him. "Too far? In what way?" Kang sighed. "The difference in skill is overwhelming." "Do you really believe that?" Woon asked. Kang explained. "The White Tiger Squadron, along with the Vermilion Bird, Azure Dragon, and Black Tortoise Squadrons, form the Divine Cult's 4 guardians. Among them, the White Tiger Squadron is known for having the most real battle experience. They are no easy opponent." Woon tilted his head and calmly asked, "Wasn't Peng Hyun-chung a former member of the White Tiger Squadron?" "Well, yes, that's true," Kang admitted. "And between Peng Hyun-chung a month ago and Peng Hyun-chung now, who is stronger?" Woon pressed. "Of course, he's much stronger now." "Not just him," Woon said firmly. "All 5 of them have been relentlessly pushing themselves to surpass one another. Unless a squadron unit leader is sent out, this won't be as one-sided as you think." Kang paused. He might have a point. Their growth over the past month has been remarkable. "Director Kang," Woon continued, "have you heard of Sun Bin?" Kang nodded. "The strategist? Descendant of Sun Tzu. He's famous for the 3-horse racing strategy." Kang recited the tactic. You divide horses into 3 classes: top, middle, and lower tiers. You deliberately pair your lower tier horse against their top tier horse, accepting a loss. Then you match your top tier horse against their middle tier horse and your middle tier horse against their lower tier horse, securing 2 wins. It's a calculated way to win 2 out of 3 races. Are you planning to apply that strategy here? Khan asked. Something similar, Woon replied. But unlike the traditional 3-horse strategy, we can't afford to lose even the first match. I intend to end this in just 3 fights. A short while later, Khan gathered Woon's 5 bodyguards. They quickly assembled, standing respectfully but visibly tense. Khan studied their faces. They're filled with fear. Do you think your opponents are that strong? He asked. Peng Hianchung admitted. If we face anyone from the top 5 units of the White Tiger Squadron, we won't stand a chance. Zhang Yang sneered. Stop being such a coward. Shut your mouth, Zhang. Quan Hume barked back, his nerves evident. From a distance, Woon observed the scene. Director Kang, your role is crucial here. These 5 won't fully trust the words of a 12-year-old boy. But they will believe you, the greatest martial expert of the Western Quarters. Khan, picking up on Woon's intent, stepped forward with a calm but powerful voice. Yes, the White Tiger Squadron is undeniably strong. But none of you are the same people you were a month ago. You've each become obsessed with victory, and that obsession has driven your growth. Do you really think I would send you to your deaths without reason? Khan looked at each of them, his conviction unwavering. Let me be clear. I have no doubt we will win. As Khan finished speaking, Woon noticed a shift in their spirits. Their confidence is returning. As expected of Director Kang. Kang then addressed the group. The first fighter representing our Western Quarters will be. His mind briefly flashed back to the private conversation he had with Woon. Back then, Woon had said, our first fighter will be Zhang Human. Kang had been surprised. Wouldn't Human be considered a middle-tier fighter? That's different from the 3-horse strategy one know. Woon calmly explained. The core of the 3-horse strategy isn't just about rankings, it's about knowing the enemy and knowing yourself. The White Tiger Squadron will not send out their best fighter first. They're certain of their own victory. Khan had realized then, even I expected us to lose the first fight. Woon had continued. We have no margin for error in the first match. Human must give it everything he's got, and he is strong enough to win. Now, in the present, Khan pointed at Human. The first to fight for the Western Quarters will be Zhang Human. Human's eyes widened in disbelief. Sensing his hesitation, Khan added firmly, I chose you because I believe you are the strongest. You got a problem with my decision? Human let out a nervous laugh and said, No, not at all, sir. Khan gave him a firm nod. Don't doubt yourself. If you give it your all, you can win, no matter who they send out. I'll make sure to win. Human replied, his voice gaining a bit of steadiness. Just then, someone announced from the entrance. The opposing team has arrived. Kang's eyes narrowed as he spotted the incoming group. That's the White Tiger Squadron's 7th unit. And leading them is the Zhongjul. I didn't think they'd bring out Team 7, the strongest unit under the White Tiger banner. Woon calmly responded. It's typical. When a commander wagers something in a match, they usually send out the standard units. The referee soon stepped forward and addressed both sides. We will now begin this sparring match, he declared, then proceeded to explain the rules. There is no time limit. Victory is achieved either by landing a decisive strike or by forcing your opponent out of the designated ring. First representatives step forward. Human stepped into the arena and introduced himself. I am Human, representing the Western Quarters. His opponent, stepping up with confidence, said, I'm Zhu Pio from the 7th unit of the White Tiger Squadron. High above, Ming sat on the balcony with one of his subordinates and casually remarked, Shall we place a bet of our own? His subordinate shook his head. There's no point betting on something so obviously one-sided. Oh? Ming raised an eyebrow. Are you that sure of the outcome? The referee's voice cut through the air. Begin! At once, Human lunged forward, aggressively thrusting his spear toward Zhu Pio. Zhu Pio observed the speed of Human's strikes for a brief moment, then swiftly closed the distance. Kid! Zhu Pio sneered. Let me show you how a real spear fight works. He's fast. Human realized. If I retreat, I'll lose my momentum. With that thought, he delivered a quick thrust, forcing Zhu Pio to step back. From the balcony, Ming watched with interest. That kid's not retreating. And he's not letting Zhu Pio get any closer either. His subordinate frowned. Do you really think he can keep that up? Ming's eyes glimmered. Only time will tell. In the arena, Human continued to block and parry, holding his ground. From the sidelines, Jagyan shouted impatiently. Zhu Pio! You can't even break through that flimsy defense? What are you doing? End this now. Observing Human's movements, Woon commented. He's using the modified spear techniques I taught him. Khan nodded. He's pacing himself well, only expending extra energy when necessary. He's conserving his stamina carefully. Zhu Pio gritted his teeth. I've already used over 30 attacks against this rookie. This isn't looking good. He growled. Fine. I'll show you something you'll regret ever seeing, the flying hermit mark. He leaped into the air, launching a high-speed technique. Recognizing the move, Khan immediately warned. That's the flying hermit mark. It's a top-tier movement technique, rarely taught even within the White Tiger Squadron. Zhu Pio struck fiercely from above, forcing Human to step back. Zhu Pio smirked. Now you're backing down. You've put up a decent fight, but this is the end. He charged in with renewed aggression, pressing the attack. Khan watched closely. Human's spear can't keep up with Zhu Pio's speed. But Woon calmly said. He's choosing not to intercept it. Khan turned to him, confused. What do you mean, sir? Woon smiled faintly. Don't you think he's biding his time, waiting for the right opportunity? As the fight continued, Zhu Pio relied heavily on the flying hermit mark, but Human kept retreating, maintaining his distance with precision. Zhu Pio began to panic. Wait, is he letting me burn through my stamina? If this keeps up, I'll lose. Frustrated, Zhu Pio threw caution aside and charged recklessly toward Human. Li Zhongjil, the unit captain, called out. Don't rush in so blindly! But it was too late. Zhu Pio had already committed to the attack. Setting moon strike! Zhu Pio roared, swinging his blade with all his might. But Human stood firm. He gathered his chi around his spear, took a solid stance, and shouted. I won't retreat any further! His spear shot forward with explosive speed, piercing Zhu Pio's guard and landing cleanly. Zhu Pio spat blood and collapsed, unconscious. Kong stared, stunned. That last spear technique, it's the Azure Dragon Squadron's hidden spear art. Woon nodded. He focused all his remaining inner strength into a single, decisive strike to boost his speed. Kong muttered. I never imagined Human was capable of mastering something like that. Woon simply smiled. A few days prior, Woon had instructed. There's something I need you to handle. Go to the White Tiger Squadron and try to buy NAK-san Mansion. 1,000 niang should be sufficient. At that time, Khan had been skeptical. That small mansion? Why that place? We still have so many properties in disrepair, and we only have about 1,210 niang left. Woon explained. We need a secluded space where we can fully devote ourselves to martial arts training. The Western quarters aren't suited for training in body lightning or stealth techniques. The entire reason I requested funds from father was to secure NAK-san Mansion. Kong had warned. You're not ready to train in body lightning yet. Even so, what's the harm in securing it in advance? But the land's infertile, you can't even farm there. Since it's connected to a mine, you can't grow crops or even produce hay for horses. If you really need a training ground, we can search for another. Woon's eyes had sharpened. No. They told me to buy NAK-san Mansion specifically. It'll become a great asset to us. In my past life, gold veins were discovered near NAK-san Mansion. It eventually became a huge advantage for the White Tiger Squadron. If I'm to grow my own power, I need to start securing funds now. Kong had finally relented. Fine. I'll go check it out. Woon had smiled faintly. When did you become so obedient? Back in the present, the referee declared. The first round goes to the Western quarters. Woon looked at Human and said quietly. You've grown. Human, still catching his breath, replied. I only did my best. Kong turned to the next fighter. John Yangs, you're up next. Are you confident? John Yang smirked. I'll know once I get in there and try. Kwan Hume glanced over at John Yangs, noticing the slight stiffness in his expression. Is he nervous too? He wondered. Kang Han spoke calmly. It's certain that the next opponent will be even stronger than Zhu Pio. John Yang's face tensed at those words. Zhu Pio was already a formidable fighter, and now someone even stronger is coming? The thought made his mood sink. Seeing this, Kang encouraged him. Relax. Young Sir Woon said that if you win this duel, you'll be exempt from sparring with Jo Kwang from now on. Startled, John Yangs asked quickly. Is that true? Kang nodded. Forget about winning or losing for now, just focus on the opponent in front of you. You have the skill. You just need to trust it. Hearing those words, John Yang's eyes lit up with determination. I will win this fight. Meanwhile, on the other side, Zhu Pio lay on the ground, tears of frustration streaming down his face as he apologized repeatedly to his captain, Zhongjul. But Zhongjul urgently called for a stretcher, cutting him off. Stop talking, or you'll start bleeding more. Watching the match unfold, Jaejin's expression darkened. Losing the first round, just one mistake was enough to cost us. Kneeling in front of him, Captain Zhongjul lowered his head. There won't be a second mistake. I'll send in Ding Wang. The referee's voice rang out again. Next representatives stepped forward. John Yangs introduced himself. John Yangs, Western Quarters. His opponent stepped forward. Ding Wang of the White Tiger Squadron's 7th Unit. Watching from the sidelines, Kang said, Looks like they've stopped underestimating us. They're serious now. Woon nodded. They should be. The NAK-san mansion is riding on this fight. Kang blinked. But there are still 3 rounds left after this. Woon shook his head. No, we need to settle this now. Peng Hyunchung and Kwan Hyum aren't ready to take on the 7th unit. If we want to secure victory, John Yangs has to win this round. The question is, has he overcome his fear of losing? The referee called. Begin. The 2 fighters immediately clashed, their swords striking each other with sharp, ringing clashes that echoed across the field. John Yang smirked. The so-called White Tiger Squadron's elite isn't so special up close. Ding Wang ignored the provocation, steadying his breathing. I'm not falling for that. Commander Jagion told me, your defeat is the White Tiger Squadron's defeat. Stay calm. Hold your ground. Wait for your opening. From the balcony, Ming watched with mild amusement. Both of them seemed too focused on not losing. It's like they're both too cautious to make a real move. His subordinate agreed. Won't one of them eventually try to break through? Maybe. Ming replied, yawning. Or maybe this'll just drag on. Suddenly, John Yangs managed to push Ding Wang back, exposing a gap in his guard. Seizing the chance, John Yangs swung and slashed a wound across his opponent's side. I missed by half an inch, he thought, but he grinned. Get ready. I won't miss again. He pressed his attack relentlessly. Ming's eyes glimmered. Looks like someone finally broke the deadlock. Chai Ju, observing from nearby, commented, The Western Quarters really have some skilled fighters. Ming asked curiously, Woon, was it Kang who trained them? Of course. Director Kang is probably the one behind this. Watching closely, Woon whispered, Seems like I chose the right order for the matches. Get ready to move for the next. But Kang cautioned, It's still too soon to celebrate. Woon answered confidently, John Yangs wants this victory more than anyone else. It's not just about what I see, it's something I can feel. John Yangs laughed as he closed in, forcing Ding Wang into a corner. With a faint movement, he faked an overhead slash. Ding Wang raised his guard instinctively, but John Yangs swiftly redirected his blade, slashing Ding Wang's sword arm. His opponent's sword clattered to the ground as he fell backward, defeated. The winner of the second match, Western Quarters. The referee declared. Furious, Jagion yelled at Zhongjul. Ding Wang didn't even show half his ability. Can they really not handle this much pressure? Zhongjul, his head still bowed, answered quietly. I have no excuse. From the balcony, Ming thought, it's true the White Tiger fighters failed to perform under pressure, but those last 3 moves, splitting forms, feints, and misdirections, were expertly executed. I can't dismiss Woon just because he's the youngest, not as long as Kang is guiding him. Kang smiled. Well done, John Yangs. Thank you. John Yangs replied, his tone humble. Peng Hyunchung, watching from the sidelines, asked, You won, so why do you look so down? Human, standing beside him, understood without asking. Just like me, John Yangs probably fought with everything he had, and realized how much he still lacks. His mind must be occupied with his own shortcomings, not his victory. Kang spoke up. Now that they've lost twice, the White Tiger Squadron will likely send out their strongest fighter next. But you didn't give Jo Kwang any specific orders? Woon calmly replied. Even if they send out a unit captain, there's nothing I need to tell him. He's already someone who's grasped martial enlightenment. He's our strongest card. This is his battle to fight and his burden to carry. The referee's voice rang out again. Third match representatives, please step forward. Zhou Kwang walked confidently into the arena. Zhou Kwang, Western Quarters. His opponent, Kang Yak of the White Tiger Squadron's 7th Unit, announced, I will fight with the honor of the White Tiger Squadron and my life on the line. Noticing the jagged edge of Kang Yak's sword, Zhou Kwang narrowed his eyes. That weapon, is it designed to break the opponent's blade? From the balcony, Ming noted. This one from the White Tiger Squadron carries a deadly aura. Chai Ju muttered. The Western Quarters fighter doesn't look like much. Really? Ming smirked. Woon is still young, so this strategy must have been planned by Kang. I wonder what he's aiming for. The referee announced. Begin the match. Kang Yak launched a chain of rapid, aggressive strikes. Zhou Kwang expertly deflected or slipped past each one with smooth, calculated movements. Chai Ju watched carefully. He's dropping his sword. That's not something you can do unless you've completely read the trajectory and speed of each strike. Kang muttered. It seems Zhou Kwang has broken through to another level. Woon nodded slightly. He already showed glimpses of this when he fought Kwan Hyum. But that was against a familiar opponent. This is different. Kang pointed out. Today, he's facing someone, and a weapon, he's seeing for the first time, yet he's already figured him out. Zhou Kwang's true talent is his eye for battle. He's not as flexible or adaptive as Zhang Yang's, but his ability to analyze his opponents is exceptional. Maybe this talent was destined to blossom eventually. Even so, Kang noticed something. But he's retreating too much. He's being too passive. Perhaps, Woon said. But don't you think he has a reason for that? Chai Ju scoffed. He seems to be enjoying himself, but there's nowhere left for him to fall back. Is that really the case? Ming wondered. It's like trying to see through fog. Even I can't fully grasp his intentions. He's definitely getting pushed back, but he's not losing in spirit. Is this all a trap? You've gathered quite the entertaining bunch, Kang. On the field, Kang Yak grinned as he continued his barrage of strikes. Why does this feel so effortless, like I'm cutting through tofu? In fact, it almost feels like he's the one deliberately walking into my blade. Well, if I just push him one more step, the White Tiger Squadron will take this match. Shouting confidently, Kang Yak unleashed his signature technique. Now I'll shatter your sword to pieces. Shattering Heavenly Sword. As his blade surged with destructive force, he declared, This is a sword-breaking technique. If you clash with me, your weapon will shatter. But to his shock, Zhou Kwang suddenly tossed his sword aside. Kang Yak's eyes widened in disbelief. Do you really think such a cheap trick will work on me? He raised his sword to strike again, only to realize Zhou Kwang had vanished. Where is he? Before Kang Yak could react, Zhou Kwang appeared behind him and delivered a powerful kick to the back of his head, knocking him unconscious on the spot. Zhou Kwang bowed respectfully. Thank you for the match. The referee raised his hand. The Western Quarters are victorious. Some time later, the scene shifted to a serene mountain peak where the Heavenly Demon Divine Cult's left general, Yang Daiqing, sat playing a game of Go with the cult's leader, Myeong-jung. As he placed his stone, Myeong-jung remarked casually, I've told you time and time again, you can't make your home at the star point. It's an easy trap. His tone then shifted slightly, as if remembering something. By the way, I've heard some rather interesting news. Daiqing glanced at the board. Is this game at checkmate? Jung shook his head. No. Look carefully. Is it about Mount Kunlun? Daiqing asked. Kunlun? Jung scoffed softly. What sort of amusement would they provide me? Daiqing hesitated. Then, is it about Woon? I've heard his swordsmanship has improved significantly as of late. Jung gave him a sideways look. Don't act like you don't know. I truly don't, sir. Daiqing replied sincerely. Is Song Jianju moving that aggressively? Jung pressed. Is that so? Daiqing muttered, his brow furrowing. It seems they've been plotting something behind my back. Jung sighed. Looks like you've changed, Daiqing. You're not quite the same as you used to be. Daiqing gave a faint smile. I have no need to wield the sword anymore. Would you pick it up again if the chance arose? Will such a day ever come again in my lifetime? Jung's expression softened. I just wanted to talk about my youngest. I heard he's been gathering a bunch of nobodies at the Western Quarters. Daiqing commented. Jung's smile deepened. And yet, those so-called nobodies just crushed the White Tiger Squadron's 7th unit. He stood from his seat. Looks like I've won this match. Surprised, Daiching looked at the board. Pardon? Jung calmly repeated. Looks like I've won. It seems my youngest is planning to turn stones into gold. Is such a thing even possible? Daiching asked. Do you think it is? Jung mused. But if he really can pull it off, then perhaps it wouldn't be such a bad thing to let him succeed me. The scene then shifted to the onset of winter. Snow blanketed the Heavenly Demon Divine Cult's western quarters, coating the rooftops and training grounds in white. Standing in the cold wind, Kang remarked. The wind's biting today, young sir. Winter is supposed to be cold. Woon replied, brushing snow from his sleeve. It will be dawn soon, Kang said. Woon looked up at the pale sky. Then I'll be turning 13. I keep forgetting. He talks like an old man, Kang thought with mild amusement. Fifth Sir will complete his phase by the end of this year. Time passes quickly. Woon silently recalled a family tradition. In the Myeong clan, all siblings must become independent by the age of 18. He asked, What has fifth brother decided to do? I heard he's heading to the Daeon region. Woon nodded thoughtfully. The Daeon region, it borders Mongolia at the northernmost part of the cult's territory. It's not known to be particularly dangerous. Kang added, It seems the Red Wind Corps commander's influence paved the way for him. Fifth Sir has long been tied to the Red Wind Corps. So, he's solidifying his power base through his connections. I should find a foundation of my own soon, too. Is that what you're hinting at? Woon thought. Kang said, Young sir, it's time for you to choose your own path. You mean the Guizhou Suk clan? Woon asked. That's where I would place my bet, Kang said firmly. Is Jong-moon still refusing to meet anyone? I'll keep trying. Also, documents have arrived from the White Tiger Corps. Woon's eyes lit up slightly. So, Commander Jagyeon kept his promise. I wanted to ask, are you planning to move to Enikasan Manor immediately? That's the plan, Woon confirmed. We can't remain under the suffocating shadow of the damning palace forever. One day, we'll need to stand on our own. Consider this the first step toward that independence. Then please grant me until spring, Kang requested. Enikasan Manor still needs repairs. Also, it would be good to survey the mines nearby, Woon added. As you wish. Later, Woon walked into the private training room of the western quarters, deep in thought. If I divide a month into 3, that gives me 10 days per cycle. 5 of those days are spent teaching the 4 bodyguards and Myeong-un. That only leaves me 5 days to focus on my own training. Even so, my body feels lighter, and my ki has grown considerably in just a few months. Incredible progress, but my inner ki reserves are still lacking. I've long since understood the core principles of the Phantom Sword. When fully mastered, the tip of the sword seems to flicker on its own, beyond the reach of human will. When it's executed properly, the true strike becomes indistinguishable from the feints. Master called this sword mirror. I'm still far from complete. It's embarrassing how little ki I have, but even so, the feeling is exhilarating. Manifesting several phantom swords with his ki, Woon directed them at a distant wall. The impact scattered dust throughout the room. Drawing his sword, he began moving out, thinking, Myeong-gal should be returning soon after crushing the Murim Union. There's supposed to be a grand victory celebration. I have no interest in attending. Just then, Kang called out to him from outside. Is it already morning? Woon wondered. I'll be out in a moment, Woon replied. As Woon stepped outside, Kang bowed slightly. There's something I need to report, Woon asked. Is it about the victory celebration? I was already planning, it's been cancelled, Kang interrupted. Why? Second Sir requested a quiet return. He said he wanted to pay his respects to the subordinates who died in battle. So, the bloodthirsty beast is hiding his claws well, Woon thought. The subordinates must be deeply touched by that. They are, Kang agreed. But I also heard that the higher-ups are furious. Compassion and sentiment are not the values of our cult. It's more important to maintain appearances and appeal to those in power. You've become quite skilled in politics, Woon said with a smirk. Kang shrugged. Isn't that the way of the world? To win the succession battle, I'll need the backing of those higher-ups too, Woon mused. But securing a powerful supporting clan won't be easy. Whoever they side with is staking their future on that successor. Their fate is tied to their choice. Interrupting his thoughts, Kang continued. Also, news just came in. Jong-moon submitted his resignation and returned to his maternal family, the Suk clan. So, the Guzhou clan is finally making their move, Woon thought. My apologies, young sir. It seems I was a step too late. Kang added. No, I think this is for the best, Woon replied. A message should arrive soon. He then said aloud. Come to think of it, my schedule for today is now wide open. Kang smiled. How about visiting the market then? Woon asked about the purpose of visiting the market. Kang explained. Since we've won the war, the slave market is opening today. I understand. Woon nodded. I'll get ready shortly. An hour later, Woon and Kang arrived at the bustling market, weaving their way through the noisy, crowded streets. Woon glanced around at the lively scene, his expression unreadable. Unlike the Myeong-un, the Heavenly Demon Divine Cult openly auctions prisoners of war to sell them as slaves. This is truly a sight that suits the Divine Cult, Woon thought. Director Kang probably wanted me to come here to observe the people buying slaves, not the slaves themselves. As they continued walking, an auctioneer's voice rang out nearby, loud and eager. Here! This one's a different breed. He's tall, sturdy, and full of strength. We're starting at 10 liang. 10 liang! Anyone willing to bid higher? Woon watched the auction, his gaze cold. What a scene fitting of the Divine Cult. Just then, Kang leaned in and whispered, House Secretary Song is here. Woon's eyes narrowed as he spotted a familiar figure in the crowd. Song Jon-hyum of the Jasham House, the one who oversees all affairs within the Daming Palace. He's practically the cult's prime minister. Why would someone like him show up at a slave market? Woon smirked slightly. I can more or less guess why. His gaze shifted to a plump man rising from the crowd. Who's that? Kang responded. That's apothecary Myeong-gak. Rumor has it he supplies cheap medicine to the Black Tortoise Corps. So he's connected to Fourth Brother, Woon noted. And that man? That's Commander Woo Hyung of the Red Wind Corps. He's from the Fuzhou One clan. The Fuzhou One clan. Their Fifth Brother's faction. It's no coincidence Secretary Song paid attention to these men. Their people Secretary Song is watching closely. Remember their faces. Woon ordered. Kang looked at him in surprise. How did you figure out why Secretary Song is here? Before Woon could answer, his attention shifted to another auction nearby. A young child, looking frightened and malnourished, was being paraded as a slave. Director Kang, can you win that child for me? Woon asked. You may bid up to 100 liang. Unless Secretary Song intervenes, I intend to take that child. Kang hesitated. 100 liang is a hefty sum. If you simply need a servant, there are plenty of others. But it's not so much that we can't afford it, Woon said firmly. Trust me. That child, she has something. Kang caught the seriousness in Woon's tone. Nodding, he raised his hand. 50 liang! 50 liang! We have 50 liang! The auctioneer called. Anyone higher? From the other side of the crowd, a figure in a red and black uniform, wearing a mask, called out. 70 liang! 70 liang! Do I hear more? Annoyed but fired up, Kang called. 80 liang! Who the hell is making me this competitive over a child? The masked bidder coolly raised it to 90 liang. Kang immediately countered. 100 liang! Without hesitation, the bidder raised it to 120 liang. Kang was about to increase the bid again, but Woon gently stopped him. Secretary Song has just arrived. And he's watching us. Let's leave now. Sometime later, as they walked through a quiet alley, Kang asked, Why would someone like Secretary Song come to the slave market himself? Woon calmly explained. He's probably here to monitor those with questionable sources of wealth. After all, people like that could pose a threat to the true cult. But we're safe, aren't we? We've received approval directly from the great cult leader. Woon smiled faintly. Secretary Song doesn't know that, does he? His thoroughness isn't something to underestimate. Kang asked. So who ended up winning the auction? I think it was someone from the Red Flying Corps. Kang replied, recalling the bidder's uniform. Red Flying Corps? Woon repeated, as he sensed someone tailing them. He turned around. Was it him? Kang quickly placed his hand on his sword, suddenly realizing the man's presence. When did he get this close? I didn't even sense him, and I've had young sir by my side the entire time. How careless of me. Who are you? State your name, Kang demanded. The masked man removed his face covering and bowed politely. Suk-ju of the Red Flying Corps, greetings to 7th Sir. Suk-ju, aren't you the Flying Foul Sword? Woon asked, eyes sharp. I'm honored that you know my humble title. Suk-ju replied respectfully. Kang whispered. Do you know him, young sir? No, Woon answered plainly. I just know the name because of what's supposed to happen in 10 years or so. If the Flying Foul Sword went out of his way to find me, I assume you have a reason? I have a proposal for young sir, Suk-ju said. And what would that be? If you agree to meet with someone, I'll hand over the child I purchased. The meeting won't bring you harm. A chilling aura burst from Woon, his voice low and dangerous. How strange. What makes you so certain? What is this pressure? Suk-ju wondered, trying to remain composed. The person in question is not someone one can meet easily. Woon's eyes narrowed further. And you're implying that I am someone anyone can casually meet? Suk-ju thought. I assumed Kang Hallwon was the one in charge. I was wrong. This boy, even at his age, the blood of the Heavenly Demon is unmistakable. Well then, Flying Foul Sword. Woon gestured for Kang to step back. Director Kang, give us some space. Kang hesitated. What if something happens to you? If he intends to harm me, you wouldn't be able to stop him anyway. Reluctantly, Kang stepped aside. I understand. Without hesitation, Suk-ju struck the child on the back of the neck, rendering her unconscious. As she collapsed, Suk-ju said, Thank you for understanding. Now, before anything else, go ahead, Woon said unbothered. Let's hear just how extraordinary this person who wants to meet me really is. A short while later, Kang hurried back after seeing Suk-ju leave the alley. Woon was there, quietly holding the unconscious child in his arms. Please take care of this child, Woon said, handing her over. Which means you've agreed to the meeting? That's right. You're not even asking who they are? That's not something I should know just yet. When the time comes, I'll tell you first. Because right now, you are the one I can trust most, Director Kang. As Kang carefully carried the child on his back, he thought, I don't know who's supporting young sir behind the scenes, but Suk-ju, the Flying Foul Sword, is a renowned expert even within the true cult. If he went all out, I wouldn't last 10 exchanges against him. Young sir, how do you know these things? How can you face him so calmly? Have you truly come this far relying only on your own strength? Then what have I been doing all this time as your director? Kang broke the silence. I have a question. Ask. How did you fool everyone for this long? Because there was no other way. Then why now? Why did you think this was the right time? Because if not now, it would be too late. If I want to rewrite fate, if I want to shape destiny on my own terms, waiting any longer would have sealed my path. The scene shifted to Sir Junmyoung's residence, in his reception hall. How was he? Sir Junmyeong asked, pouring tea. He's much more impressive than I expected, Suk-ju answered. Kang Hallwon must be an exceptional teacher. It's not Kang Hallwon, Suk-ju said. The brain behind the Western Quarters is the 7th young lord himself. Really? The 7th young lord? He's not flawless, but I'd say I'm more than 90% certain. He has a natural ability to attract people to his side. That's the quality of a monarch, Junmyeong thought. Is he truly that capable? But the mountains he must climb are too high. Have some tea, Junmyeong offered. Suk-ju continued. Everyone who meets him seems to favor him. According to Baseon, although he only recently began practicing swordsmanship, his form shows no weaknesses. Is Kang Hallwon his instructor? I couldn't confirm that. Also, the escort guards he personally trains. I couldn't identify their teacher either. Look into whether anyone else has approached him before us, Junmyeong ordered, suspicion flickering in his eyes. Surely it's not the Yangzhou Qian family. Understood. Happy New Year to you, sir. You as well. At the time, in the study of the West Quarters, Myeong-un arrived at the entrance to Woon's room, carefully escorting the slave child. She announced from outside. My lord, I brought the child. Come in, Woon called from inside. As they entered, Myeong-un respectfully said, I will take my leave now. But as Woon's gaze fell upon the child's worn and ragged attire, he sighed inwardly. That clothing, it seems there's been a misunderstanding. He shook his head. No. Stay here. Just wait quietly to the side. Myeong-un silently moved aside. Woon studied the child carefully. It's right on the tip of my tongue. This child barely has any will to live. The human hunts within the divine cult are merciless. For a child, this life must have been unbearable. He asked gently. How old are you? The girl answered. I am 12. And your family? Woon asked, his voice steady. They're dead. Without hesitation, the girl suddenly pulled out a large hairpin, closer to a dagger in size, and lunged at him, fury blazing in her eyes. You people killed them! Woon easily avoided the strike, but as her attack failed, the girl immediately turned the weapon on herself, trying to end her own life. Woon swiftly seized her wrist, stopping her. Your family won't return just because you throw your life away, Woon said calmly. Don't give up so easily. I could end this right now by striking your meridian, but I won't. Why not? She demanded, her voice shaking. Because I want you to decide the course of your own life. If you don't choose for yourself, you'll always be looking for a reason to throw it away. His voice softened. I hope you can find a path here and survive. I'll help you with whatever you need to do that. Lies! She shouted. I've heard all about the people of the divine cult. You trick others and use them as playthings. Isn't that what you'll do to me? I'm not that kind of person, Woon said firmly. And not everyone here is like that. Are all people outside the divine cult good? The world isn't that simple. People are the same, no matter where you go. He gave her a moment to breathe. If you've calmed down, I'd like to hear your story. The girl lowered her guard just slightly and said, My name is Choi. I lived in a small village in Qinghu. People from the divine cult came, asking if we had cooperated with Mount Kunlun. They killed everyone, but those strangers just asked for food. That's all. I wonder what happened to Choha? Woon asked. Is that your sibling? If you came here together, they shouldn't be too hard to find. Choi shook her head. No. Choha was dragged somewhere else. Woon turned to Myeong-un. Inform Director Kang. We need to search for Choha immediately. Yes, my lord. Myeong-un replied without hesitation. Choi's eyes filled with desperate hope. Really? If you can find Choha, I'll give you everything. No, I'll devote my entire life to you, my lord. There's no need for that. Woon said with a faint smile, though a quiet thought passed through his mind. Someday, I might have to ask you for something after all. I can feel it. Myeong-un, Woon continued. I'm entrusting this child to you. Think of her as your little sister and take care of her. I will follow your command. Myeong-un answered with a small bow. Later, Woon sat in contemplation. I'd planned for Elder Sher's connection to the Sher family to occur eventually, but the timing is too soon, and the person involved is not who I expected. Sher Ju-myung, one of the 10 elders and a martial artist respected even within the divine cult. His outward appearance is gentle, but within, he's a monster among monsters. If I make even one wrong step, I'll be devoured. I can't afford to become one of their pawns. I have to stand as an equal. A few days later, Woon and Jo Kwang set out for the arranged meeting place. As they rode, Woon observed the horse beneath him. This isn't an ordinary steed. It moves smartly, carefully avoiding danger. We've arrived, Jo Kwang informed him. Let's dismount here, Woon said, sliding off his horse. He walked up and knocked on the door. Is anyone inside? A voice from behind the door responded. State your business. 1 gun of Northern Bark and 2 gun of Dijon, Woon answered, giving the password. The door creaked open. The wind is cold today. Please come in. As Woon entered, he glanced around. Looks like they've set up a proper base here. Jo Kwang tensed as the door shut behind them. My lord, this feels dangerous. It's not a trap, Woon said confidently. Let's keep going. Following the path, they soon came upon a small hut built at the center of a pond. A pond in the middle of all this, remarkable, Jo Kwang murmured. Wait here, Woon said. I'll accompany you inside, Jo Kwang offered. No, Woon declined. You wouldn't stand a chance against him anyway. Even if I recovered all the martial arts from my previous life, I couldn't beat him. He even insisted I come without Director Kang as a condition of this secret meeting. He's testing me. Woon stepped into the hut. Inside, Sher Ju-myung was waiting. You've come. When someone of your stature calls, how could I refuse? Woon said coolly. Ju-myung smiled faintly. What power could an old man like me possibly have? Please sit. If someone like Elder Sher Ju-myung claims to have no power, who else would? Woon countered. The divine cult lord holds true power. Really? Not the Myeong family or the 8 Mount Tai families. He's not lying, but his words aren't the whole truth either. The Divine Cult Lord would be saddened to hear you say that, Ju-myung said. A Divine Cult Lord must have the courage to face the truth, Woon replied. At that, Ju-myung suddenly released his oppressive ki. That's a dangerous thing to say, my lord. Is this the 1,000 sound strands? But I've trained in the Heavenly Demon's cultivation art. I must let his ki pressure pass through me rather than resist it. Ju-myung noted with interest. He's not using internal energy to fight back? The 1,000 sound strands become even more painful when one tries to resist it with ki. How disappointing, Woon said calmly. Disappointed in this old man's martial arts? Ju-myung asked. No. I'm disappointed that you didn't approach me with trust. Regardless of status, anyone who insults the cult lord must be punished. That may be true inside the Daming Palace. Jun-myung's eyes narrowed. What are you implying? Even now, hypocrites in the Central Plains openly curse the divine cult and the cult lord. Yet you all engage in power struggles within the palace instead of punishing them. Isn't that more disgraceful? Ju-myung slowly withdrew his pressure. He endured it. Pouring tea, Ju-myung asked. Young lord, are you not afraid of death? For someone without achievements, how could I not be? Woon answered. Then you plan to accomplish great things? Isn't that why we have books in this world? He's 13 on the outside, but far older within, Ju-myung thought. Mount Hang's floral tea is said to rival Yunnan's in fragrance, Ju-myung remarked. Then it should fetch the same price. But Yunnan tea tends to be far more expensive, Woon replied. Ju-myung laughed. No wonder I feel your blade is still pointed at me. Would you be happy if someone suddenly attacked you? Please forgive me. But mocking the divine cult lord is not something I can overlook. You didn't call me here just to issue a warning, did you? Jun-myung's gaze sharpened. I wanted to make you a proposal. If it's I'll lend you my power, so become my card, then I'll have to decline. Ju-myung smiled and lowered his head slightly. How could I make such an impudent offer? The Guizhou family simply wishes to support you. If I'm careless, I'll get caught in this web. May I ask why? Later, when Woon returned to the West Quarters, Kang greeted him with a bright smile. I've decided to form an alliance with the Guizhou family, Woon said. That's excellent news, Kang exclaimed. Yes, but it's too soon to celebrate. As they walked, Woon recalled his earlier conversation. May I ask why? Woon had asked. First, because you currently lack any true supporters. Second, because I believe you are extraordinary, Ju-myung had said. Woon had answered carefully. Those are kind words, but I've had no backing since birth. I haven't achieved anything yet. Even if I have the potential to become the next successor, I've shown nothing concrete. If the Shi family supports me now, wouldn't I be a fool to accept without suspicion? Besides, if my brothers, Yunnan's tea, praise me too easily, I'll lose value in the successor competition. The cult isn't simply looking for martial strength. They want a ruler with achievements. He's truly impressive. If only he were the third or fourth young lord, Ju-myung had thought. The 8 Moutai families each support different candidates. If I want to pull them to my side, I'll need to draw in my brothers and expand my own power base. Elder, I hope you won't hide anything further. You've seen through it well. We simply wish to support the right person. They say Mount Hang's floral tea is still Mount Hang's floral tea from the moment it blooms. Who does the Guizhou family see as the right person? There is no one yet. Is that so? Do you think this old man would lie about that? I will accept your offer on one condition. What is it? When the time comes to choose the right person, I want my opinion to be heard. Back in the present, Kang asked. But won't the decision-making still rest with them? What do we gain from this? We just have to make sure their plans go off track. I will use their power to become that right person myself. If I don't climb to the cult lord's seat, it's death anyway. I'll fight with everything I have. I have no intention of playing anyone's pawn. That aside, Woon continued. I told Myeong-un to pass on a message. Kang quickly interrupted. You mean about Choi's sibling? I've already looked into it. It seems the child was bought by the Red Dragon Squadron. The Red Dragon Squadron? Woon's voice tightened. Did you try negotiating with them? Yes. But even when we offered them double the price, they refused. It seems they plan to train the child as an assassin. The Red Dragon Squadron occasionally raises battlefield survivors like that. I see. Choi will be heartbroken. Just then, Woon's memories from his past life resurfaced. Now I remember, Ghost hands Jang Young. I'll handle this myself, Woon said, his resolve firm. Summon Jo Kwang and John Yangs. Kang hurried after him. My lord, are you planning to go there personally? Woon glanced over his shoulder. Isn't this something that must be resolved eventually?
We got plenty more where that came from. Hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for even more amazing content.